The warmth of your covers threatens to prevent you from ever leaving bed, Odnos. With your eyes still closed, but very much awake, you run your hand along the textured boar hide. You still remember when Alusnos speared it. You don't think you've ever been that proud. But the persistent knocking, which initially awoke you, continues. What is your routine before you open the door to greet your master servant?
Well, I assume I'm gonna put on some clothes first.
Yeah, you're currently in a nightgown. How dressed up are you getting?
Um, Business casual.
Okay. You pull on some fur-lined boots, you get some trousers on, you get a sort of loose billowing tunic with a jacket over that. And are you trimming your beard before you answer the door?
Yes.
All right, you
Clean
head into your
shaven.
bathroom. You hear, the light knocking continue. You shave your beard off. What little hairs were starting to appear again, and you head over to the door. On the other side, you see Polios, your master servant. He wears a constraining black jacket with a faded yellow shirt beneath. His beard is perfectly trimmed, and his eyes seem to twinkle in the early morning. He's a decade older than you, but his lively energy makes you forget that sometimes.
Master Odnos, just to remind you of the day's obligations, your uncle will be stopping by the property for brunch alongside Lord Achelnios. After that, Aeolros will want to discuss purchases for the laborers, and then finally you said you wanted to visit the city just after lunch.
Good morning, Polios.
Yes.
And yes, that all sounds right.
And as to updates on where the family is currently located this morning, Onesa, Penosa, and Heraknosa are doing painting on the rear porch. They seem to have taken an immense fascination in the growing of the crops. And your son is out with the warhorse, the one that the stable master's been trying to break.
Excellent. Well, shall we be going?
Well, do you know where you'll be wanting to admit the guests? Indoor or outdoor?
How is the weather today?
It's good enough. It should hold until the end of the week. At least that is what the oracles say.
We'll plan for indoor.
All right.
And Polios gives you a salute. It is a leftover gesture from when he worked for actual noblemen, but despite how many times you've tried to explain to him, well, I'm not technically nobility, that instinct remains, and he fades away down the halls. You probably have, knowing your uncle, 30 minutes to an hour. Technically he's supposed to be here around now, but he's never once been on time, even when he was the leader of your clan. So, in the meantime, what would you like to do?
I'm gonna go see what Alusnos is up to with that horse.
Yeah, you head out through one of these side entrances to your estate. Immediately, a warmth hits your face. It's probably 70 degrees. The sky above you is blue. It's shaping up to be a good spring. You head around the side of the central manor house until you get to the horse corral. You don't have that many horses. You're not one of the wealthy horsemongers of the Plains faction, but you have a clutch of them, about 6, only 2 of which are war horses, which cost about 200 gold each, making them individually your biggest investments on your entire property. And in the center of the horse corral, you can see your son. He's practically the spitting image of you, tousled hair, down to about shoulder height, and he is currently petting the mane of the horse, and you can tell, based on some scrapes and bruises, he's probably already attempted to mount it once or twice, and that didn't look to have gone too well. And you can see him getting ready for a 3rd attempt.
Alusnos, how goes the effort?
He glances over his shoulder, and then, after looking away from the horse starts to move a bit, so he repositions the horse where he can look at you and it at the same time.
Well, he has a strong will. He's not named Triumph for nothing. But, I haven't broken anything yet.
Well, that's good.
And imagine what it'd be like riding into battle atop him, spear in hand, cuirass on your chest, shield on your other. You'd be invincible.
Yes, he's quite the horse, but like you said, it would be worth little if you were broken as you rode on him.
Suppose so.
Still, I'll leave you to it. I just wanted to see.
And, granduncle's stopping by, right?
Yes, rather soon, in fact.
Well, I'll make sure to tame the horse by then. I know you like showing off.
All right. Well, I'll let you get to it then.
You slowly make your way away from the horse corral. As you walk away, despite, his boastful behavior, you trust your son enough not to try to do something as stupid as tame a horse in the span of about an hour. And you can hear, he goes over to the stable master and you can hear him being like, it's not going to be today, and beginning the slow process of getting the horse back inside of its stall. Where'd you like to head to next?
How long till Great Uncle's here? Uncle?
Probably another 10 to 20 minutes.
All right, I'm just gonna get some breakfast ready then, so that we can both have some.
Yeah, you
I
head
tell
to
the
your
servants too.
central courtyard within your estate. It's sort of a villa setup with a large central rotunda, a fountain in its middle, and this is where the indoor-outdoor seating is. There's a screen above that prevents detritus and insects and things like that from getting in. You order for, orange juice, all the bounty of your wealthy property to be laid out, because today is both a social visit, but as with all social visits amongst the Plains faction, it's also a chance to show off your prosperity and wealth. Not so much in front of your uncle, but especially in front of your cousin, Achelnos, who will also be coming to your estate today. And you spend basically the last couple minutes fussing with, the table dressings, making sure all the food's getting ready. Polios assures you that he's got it taken care of, but what else are you going to do? And then eventually, you hear the sound of hooves rattling towards the estate.
I'll wait for them to get here.
Do you wait on the front steps of the manor, or do you wait inside and let servants bring them to you?
Front steps.
Alrighty. You stride outside, and you can see two riders approaching. Each of them atop a powerful steed. One looks like a former workhorse. It's so massive in the shoulders. It must have cost your uncle a small fortune. And for a man his age, riding a horse that powerful, a bit of a risky proposition. And the two people visiting Calmeleros, your estate today, are the opposites of your clan. There is Akrisnos, the man who largely raised you, your uncle. He wears dark earth tones with a signet ring for your clan, and he has a spear on his horse's side. It's a tradition from when war is happening, but in peace times like this, it's seen as unnecessary and a little bit violent, but he likes his traditional things, his long beard. He is the model of a Plains faction aristocrat. And then beside him, a decade younger than you, is your cousin. His father was a supporter of Strabo during the tyranny of 20 years ago and was killed in a violent interaction with a mob. But Achelnos looks exactly like his father, the same contorted face, prominent nose, short-cut hair. He almost looks like a military officer, which distinguishes him quite a bit to most other members of the Plains faction. And
how long since I've last seen Achelnos?
He comes by every 6 months or so. Though why he's come this particular time, you're not entirely sure.
All right.
Immediately as they pull their horses to a stop, your uncle slowly climbs down from his horse and opens his arms for a hug.
I'll hug him. Uncle.
It's good to see that you haven't burned the place down in the last couple of days.
Oh, I've thought about it, but I haven't acted.
That's good. I'm afraid that I haven't been able to hear the full extent of your journeys in Piave. I know I've stopped by a couple of times, but I'm excited to hear about those today. I don't think any business related will interrupt us.
Hopefully. I have much to tell.
And your cousin will walk past you and your uncle and begin to head into the mansion.
All right, let him do his thing.
Your uncle, he's a bit more hobbled than the last time you saw him. He's still walking, it's just a bit slower, and he'll begin to walk into the manor and look around and just take a, deep breath of the air and say,
So, how is, Tritnos in the city? Have you heard any word from him?
Not in some time. As far as I know, he's safe. I would have heard otherwise, but I don't know any details.
Well, I would recommend you reach out to him. You only have 2 sons. It's important that they know their father loves them.
Yes, you're right.
All right.
the two of you head inside, and by the time you get in there, your cousin is already seated at the head of the table and already eating food. Your uncle just, shakes his head a little bit disappointed. And for the beginning portion of breakfast, it's mostly a social check-in. Your uncle speaks 80% of the time telling you about his little estate up in the hills. Your cousin only occasionally interjects to talk about how actually your uncle's property is not doing as well as he seems to indicate. But eventually, your uncle will look over your cousin and say, well, how is your estate faring? And your cousin will sort of think for a moment. He'll sort of pluck a small piece of chicken out of his beard and say, well, the property itself is doing fine, but the tenants are absolutely unbearable. They seem to think that, that they have any ownership of their property. They're acting like they're not renting from us. I'm sure you have these problems. And he looks towards you, Oddness.
Only on occasion, but things tend to work out in the end.
Well, maybe that's because yours are so well behaved. I know that they went off to fight against Malgotha. That means that they must be braver than mine. Mine simply threaten to involve barristers, say that it's an unfair rental agreement. They don't know that I can kick them off the property whenever I want.
How well do you know your tenants personally?
Not at all. Why would I spend any time with them?
I've found that it's good to have a feel for them. It can help with management decisions.
Does the desert lion worry himself with the opinion of the sheep within his territory? There's no reason for us to waste our time with people like them.
If the sheep are going to flee or stay, that's relevant for the lion to know.
There'll always be someone to replace them. Maybe I'll even rent out to some Athnoween. I mean, they can't steal everything. Your uncle will clear his throat. And a servant will bring some water over, and he'll say, well, I have to admit, we're not here purely for social reasons. We're somewhat here on behalf of the clan. Chelnos here heard a rumor that you're thinking of running for Stratagoy.
I've been thinking about the Stratagoy position. I'm hesitant that I would be the one.
Your uncle nods slowly. Then, what exactly were you thinking?
Well, people like a hero, and I have some I haven't run it by anyone, so this would be a good time to ask advice. In fact, I have a tenant who made quite a name for himself in the past war with the Athnoween. He's very well respected, and I've been considering helping him to run a campaign.
Your uncle nods, and your cousin thinks for a moment. Your son served in the military, did he not? Would he not be a better candidate?
I see him as more of a long-term potential. He's young, and Stratagoy only serves for a year.
And this tenant of yours, he's of the Hills faction, I'm guessing.
Yes, of course.
And you think we could trust one of them?
He has proven loyal to me. He pays his rent on time. I would want to make sure of this, of course. See if I could have some collateral, but...
And what would be the goal behind this? Why would you want to make one of your tenants the Chief General of Zuri?
There's been many developments in the League, as I'm sure you know, and I've always taken an interest in foreign policy. I believe I would be able to do good with someone who listens to me and control.
Your uncle will nod. It's about time that we'd have reasoned leadership in the Stratagoy position. It's been a very long time since smart people have occupied that post. It's only been sophists and rhetoricians.
Exactly.
We need a steady hand to keep us out of war.
This is my thoughts with the tenant. He's a simple man who won't go off on high-flying rhetoric, but he'll have people behind him who would be more capable of governing.
Your cousin will scoff. Since when did we get involved in charity? Should we not be pushing for our own interests? A war sounds nice. A good distraction from parties and little sandwiches and tea.
Who said I was against war?
He smiles, and your uncle furrows his brow. Now that sounds more intriguing. Who are you thinking? Echialden? Beltza? Malgotha? We could go round two.
Echialden has proven to be backsliding in recent years regarding their
Oh yes, of
political
course.
situation.
Democracy's in shambles, and that means we should attack them.
Yes, too.
That'd be good. I could
Of
be like my
course.
father, riding at the head of a spear of cavalry, delivering death upon the enemy like thunder being rained down by the gods.
I can picture it. And of course, we would have a potential backup for Piave, I'm sure could be arranged. It would not be us alone.
Chelnos leans back. If anyone in the clan asks about it, you have my seal of approval. I'd like the idea of a good scrap.
Excellent. I'm glad you stopped by.
Your uncle has not said anything since you mentioned war. He just has a furrowed brow.
Uncle, what do you think of all this?
I trust you more than I trust most. But I'm afraid that peace has made you forget how cruel war really is. Have you read the broadsheets of what's happening in Tabrash? Hundreds of thousands of dead, famine, brutality on a scale that we can't imagine in our little slice of paradise. I wouldn't want you to bring that here.
I've been in Piave for the past year or so, and I've seen many of the results of their pig war. I believe that if we were to act preemptively to prevent an escalation or long drawn-out conflict, then it could be helpful for both us and the League.
Perhaps. Your cousin will stand up and say, "Well, I heard you got a new warhorse. Have you broken the thing yet?"
Not yet. My son, Elucinos, has been working on it.
Ah, he's a good lad. I'll go talk to him. We'll get it broken by the end of the day. And Achelnos will leave the room, and your uncle remains there, brow furrowed, and he says, "Well, I've supported you for this long. If anyone in the family asks, I'll let them know that I support whatever candidate you have for Strategoi."
Appreciate it, Uncle, but I also request that you speak your mind.
Glory is a game for young men. Neither of us are very young, and if you're speaking of the tenant I think you are, Midion's not very young either. I imagine that he's seen enough to know that the only thing that war benefits is, well, people who like shaking their spears like Chelnos, or young men who can inherit glory that they couldn't get outside of conflict. I just don't know if this is good for us, good for the city, good for anyone.
I don't know that it would be good if we sat here and let the League fall apart either.
He nods. Well, the travel here has me quite tired. I'll probably use one of your guest rooms.
Yes, of course.
Are you going to be here for the rest of today?
Eric's, what was my, what else did I have to do today? I had some other stuff, right?
Yes, you need to meet with your overseer, and then head to the city.
I have some other business to attend to.
Well, then, I'll see how my niece-in-law and sister-in-law are doing. If I don't see you again, it was at least good catching up, and I still have to hear your stories about Biave sometime.
Yes, of course.
And he gets himself up and sort of waves you off, and you go to help him and leaves the dining hall. The only thing that survived are a couple of really nice, tiny little sandwiches that were placed in front of your cousin.
If I see Polios on the way out, I'll tell him to give it to some of the staff.
He nods.
All right, then I'll go find the overseer.
So, within your property, among your servants, there are two people that you interface with. They're basically the only two that you talk to, those being your master servant, who handles everyone within the house and the various residences on your property. And then there is Aolros, the overseer. He manages the agricultural and animal husbandry angle of your property, the revenue-generating aspects. He's one of the only servants that has their own private residence because his job is so important. So you make your way over. The door to the residence is open, and inside, he seems to be holding a meeting with two probably like farming team leaders. They look like temporary laborers. So as you step inside, Aolro stands up. The two laborers, before you even get the chance to say or do anything, immediately give you a deep bow and begin to scamper out of the room.
I hope that wasn't important, that I interrupted.
No, I can tell them it later.
Excellent.
Lord Odnos, I assume you're here at my request, or was there something else you wanted to discuss?
Well, Polios told me that you called for me, so I wanted to
Yes.
make an appearance.
Well, as you know, we've managed to improve the productivity on your farms quite significantly, but as this year I've been trying to improve efficiency, I've come across a couple of restrictions. I know that you fancy yourself a bit of a politician, so I know that you people in Zuri vote on such things, and there's a particular piece of legislation that's been a rather large thorn in my side.
What is it?
Well, here in Zuri, those who are foreign citizens, we are allowed to pay 50 pence per day of labor. Anyone else has to be paid between 3 to 4 times depending on which social strata they fall in. But many people are able to get reclassified from foreign laborer to domestic laborer incredibly easily. I'm not sure if possible, but if you could make that process harder, it'd be a lot easier to get labor for my projects.
I'll see what I can do. I won't make any promises. Just dip the toes in.
All right, and not to, busy your thoughts with numbers too much, but if we could reduce our labor costs by half, which is what this would do, profits could probably even exceed what I was able to do last year. I'd think 40 or 50% increase in return.
And it would remain roughly the same if this went to pass?
Well, if I'm forced to hire local labor, I'm thinking a 10 or 20% growth.
Still excellent. You've done well.
I suppose so. Oh, and if any of the laborers are causing any trouble for you and your family, prolonged eye contact, lingering in your vicinity, things such as that, please let me know. I like to enforce an abhorrent discipline on all those in my employ.
It doesn't bother me, but I'll leave you to your work.
Yes, it's important that one never become too close to the laborers. You have to keep them in their position.
Well, I'll see what I can do about this citizenship issue. Are there any other workarounds besides changing the laws?
Oh, yes, we could import Athnoween labor, but based on prior experience in my previous place of employment, the slave revolts are more than, well, it's just not worth it. I know you don't have slavery here, but I doubt that the Athnoween here are any more amenable than those in Apar.
Yes, I'd say that's a bad idea on several levels.
Well then, we're in agreement. Thank you, Lord Odnos.
All right, I'll leave you to your work.
Yeah, you walk out of the overseer's shack, and the two people who are speaking with him return. You know, these Aparan transplants who you've hired over the last couple years, they're really good at what they do, but every time you have a conversation with them, you're reminded of just how deeply foreign their culture was to yours. They're constantly calling you Lord, the salutes, the over honorifics, the references to slavery, which has been outlawed in Zuri since its founding. It's taken years for them to adjust, and they're still not quite fully there, but they make you so much money. So
Work-life balance on my end. Yeah.
So, where to now?
Head into the city, I guess. I'll put on some better clothes before I do that.
Yeah, you change out your casual country clothes for formal clothing. The types of things which, when people in the city of Zuri see you pass by, they know you are of the Plains faction. Alrighty. Well, elsewhere. Akbanax. Your joints hurt. Your skin is cold, and you ease upward and open your eyes. You don't know where the years went. You remember once being a young man. You are already thinking about times long past, but the organ between your ears remains strong, and that's all that matters. You're already thinking about a lecture that you've been formulating since the day before, and experiments that you wish for your Arcanist friends of yours to conduct. Easing up from bed, you walk to the entrance of your home. It's not a very far walk, it's quite modest. And sitting at the steps of your home is a politely folded print of a broadsheet. It's an incredible thing, the printing press. In your youth, such sheets as this would be unthinkable, and yet here you have occurrences from around the Dellian League, all of Eastern Valoros, and within Zuri specifically, in the perfect script of a master inksman. There are 4 headlines in this article, or I guess this broadsheet, which draws your attention. Those being Sound of Silence, Glory at Yolthus Creek, Blood on the Plains, and Strabo's Air. Would you like to know more about any of those?
Nope.
Alrighty.
Actually, maybe I guess I should probably read one of them. Let's read about Blood on the Plains.
Alrighty. You head over to your chair, you unfold the broadsheet, you follow the instructions to the section on Blood on the Plains, and it is written by a former Strategoi of Zuri, and it is an opinion piece. It basically gives you updates on the war on the plains between the dragon and his Tebrashan princedoms and the Mythosian
Before I
Empire.
keep reading, does it seem pro-war or anti-war?
It seems very fact-based with only a small piece of opinion added in.
All right, I'll finish reading, but boring. It's supposed to be you claim it to be an opinion piece at the beginning.
Yeah, it's a little bit opinionated. I mean, it is a bit opinionated. He talks about how the Tebrashans are justified in their war against the Empire and that the Mythosian Empire is no friend of Zuri, but...
Based. Okay, I can get behind that.
And it talks about a recent campaign that was happened in which the dragon advanced into a place called Donoslaski. You've never heard of it. And that constant harassment by irregular guerrilla forces forced the dragon to retreat. And while he says that it was a strategic withdrawal, by many outside viewers, including the author of this article, it seems to be the first defeat the dragon has ever suffered in his military career.
Wow. Well, I don't like the dragon, but I don't like the Mythosians even more, so...
Well... Yeah, so you and the article writer are quite quite in sync then.
Yeah. Okay. These facts are well presented.
All right. Based. Alrighty, then I assume you set the broadsheet aside.
Yeah. I'll add it to my stack.
All right, yeah.
How new are these? Are these like?
This one was made today.
No, sorry. How new are broadsheets? Because you said the printing press was new.
Yeah, the printing press was introduced to Zuri about 12 years ago.
Okay, cool. So I've been reading the paper for a decade now.
Yeah.
Okay.
After reading the broadsheet, you hear, as you're getting up and putting it onto your stack of others, you hear your front door open. Only a cloth partition separates you from the door, so you can hear the voice of one of your students saying, "Good morning."
Which of them is it?
Based on the voice, you think it's Achilles, the rich one.
Who's there?
Oh, just a person with a kettle in need of filling.
I'll walk up and throw the curtain open.
Yeah, he's holding a kettle. It is like half filled with water, and he has a small little clay jar in his other hand and says, "I thought I would make some tea."
Very well, but when I ask who's here, it is right to answer.
Well, you figured out who it was.
Not the point. Honesty and forthcoming with truthfulness is one of the most moral things a man can do.
Yes, but aren't you the one that always says that, names are an abstraction of a thing that cannot be fully grasped by just saying the words? Something like that?
Sure. Doesn't mean it isn't polite.
Do you want some tea?
I would love some tea.
All right. Everyone else is already out in the courtyard. That one simpering carpenter who always arrives is waiting for you.
Fine.
And he will go to fill the kettle and begin to put some tea in. And you step outside your front door. Your house is really small. It is one room, only separated by cloth partitions. The place where your students and friends gather to ask you questions of the day is a small public courtyard that adjourns 6 other houses, all attached to this one public courtyard. It's not really your space, but it just sort of has become it because no one else uses it very much. And it has begun to get the colloquial name, the School of Akbanax. Currently, there are about 6 people here. 4 of them are your students. Tritnos and Charnax are talking, though it's a very one-sided conversation with Charnax largely trying to ignore the person talking to her. Eluzor and Priamnos are seated to the side, each sort of in their own world. And as indicated, the quote-unquote simpering carpenter, a person who's been speaking to you for over a decade, named Mydor, is waiting, seated on a small carpet.
Yeah, this guy. Well, I will walk out before the tea is done because I don't really like talking to... How do I say this guy's name? Oculus?
Yeah.
Oculus does not entertain me, so
Yeah.
I'll let him make tea, and I will go out. Greetings.
The only 2 people that glance up are Charnax and Mydor. The 2 book-absorbed students focus on that, and Tritnos continues to try to have this one-sided conversation. Mydor will stand up and say, "Well, good morning."
Good morning. Good to see you as always, Mydor.
Listen, all right, I've been thinking about it, and
Yes.
I think we've gotten a bit off track in the last couple of years, and I want to recenter our thinking.
Very well.
He sits back down on the blanket he brought. All right, so the reason why I came to you is because I'm a carpenter. I make things, what I thought was artistic in nature. The finest of chairs, the beautiful bedposts and such. And I asked various people what the thing I was actually making was. What was its function? Was it the value? What was I actually providing for others? And I think we've gotten off track in the last couple of years. I've been asking questions on all sorts of things, what art is and all that. But I suppose I'd like to just hear your thoughts again. What do I make?
Chairs.
Yes, but what is their value? Why?
No, seriously. I think that you misunderstand the answers because you're simply asking the wrong kind of question. What do you make? Chairs. Is it not simple?
But what is a chair?
Something to sit on. For it hurts my back to sit on the ground, and it hurts my back less to sit in a chair.
Then why do I spend so much time putting artistry into my craft? Could I not just make stools 15 a day?
Well, now that is a better question. But you started by asking, what do I make? And the answer is chairs. If your question is, why do I make specifically the chairs that you do, and maybe even, why do people want the chairs that I make? Why would Akbanax want a chair of mine? That is because it is beautiful.
I make chairs.
You do. And you're quite good at it.
I'll have to think on this.
Do not get so lost in the trivialities of the definitions that you forget that you're a chair maker. You shouldn't have to ask me what you make.
When you put it that way, it seems like a silly question.
Many men smarter than me have lost a great amount of time to silly questions. It's much simpler to just answer them. It's the problem with the skeptics. They ask so much and answer so little.
I know I've told you this before, but when I first began this quest, I went to, I don't remember his name anymore, he's long dead anyways, some heart attack, but when I asked him my question, he responded by asking me why, and when I said I was curious, he asked me why again, and he must have just asked me why 15 times until I left.
Yes, you see, Mydor, the skeptics, they provide great value in asking so many questions, and I have learned a lot in their tradition, and so I ask questions myself as well. But the thing that they chiefly ignore is ever answering them, and that is what sets me apart. I answer questions that I ask.
Well, thank you for that. I think I should probably get back. I have a new apprentice. He's awful, but grandson and all that. I assume you won't take you won't take any compensation for your services today.
No coin.
All right. Well,
As
I'll
always.
keep asking.
And I will keep declining. Although
I mean,
one time, you could give me some lecture about how to make a chair.
that would take quite a while. I don't know if I have that much free time.
You have enough free time to come and see me most days.
That's true. That's true. Well, I'll make sure when the elections come up in the fall, I'll make sure to vote for a master of ceremonies who's willing to get you properly funded. You know, you should have a temple dedicated to your schooling, not a public courtyard with bird shit in it.
Well, thank you very much. You know, I'm no political philosopher. Those questions don't entertain me the same way that most of my work does. But I have been more interested in this year's election. I might put together an entire pamphlet of my opinions.
Well, I'd be curious to see it. I mean, I'm a guildsman all the way, so wherever the guilds run, I'll vote for them. But even amongst the guilds, I know everyone thinks of us as a monolith, but there are those amongst us with a bit wild opinions.
Well, I'll make sure to keep you informed then.
Well, thank you. And he stands up, folds up his blanket, and goes walking away with a smile on his face. And a few moments later, Achilles will exit with the brewed tea, and he'll start to pour it out for your students. And the only student who is actually fully engaged with that will walk over. Her name is Charnax. She's one of your more recent students and your only woman student. Not out of your choice, just because most don't have the freedom in the city to pursue education. But as a daughter of a priestess, she's got plenty of funding. And she will, with her little tea held in her hands, sit down pretty close to where my door did. And she'll say, "Well, I know it's early in the morning, but I read a book."
Did you?
I did. And I know that you're a worshiper of Aurelian's soul. And I suppose I have a question for you.
All right. What is it?
Well, are right actions right because God commands them, or are right actions commanded by God because they are right?
They are right because God commands them.
You believe in divine command theory? Then if God said it was okay to murder someone, that would be all right?
Yes. In fact, I think he does.
I thought your God was about, the superiority of man and the cleansing of the soul and the divine flame. There's not much mention of murder there.
Well, sure there is. First of all, in the superiority of man implies an inferiority of elves. Their murder is commanded, and it is right to do.
I suppose you do worship that bloodthirsty saint of yours. I proposed it to my mother, and she said something very similar. As you know, within the Hellion pantheon, it's all built on a murder, so to say that murder is wrong would be a bit hypocritical.
Sure. I think that, frankly, a more interesting problem is how you could possibly derive or divine what it is that God values.
I feel as if perhaps in this respect we're blessed by the existence of paladins, oracles, and soothsayers. They purport to see the various gods, and I suppose the options are either they're wrong or the religions are wrong. I mean, if all of them purport to see their god and all religion purport that they are the only religion, there's a bit of a problem there.
Certainly.
I suppose I just find it unsatisfying to say that the divine can command what is right.
Where would you derive your morality from, then, other than God?
Well, the book I read gives this theory of all people being innately moral and only by the corruptions of life pulling us away from the main path. And I mean, there is no society on the face of Valeros in which it is all right to steal from your neighbor, kill him, and seize his property if he is a man equal to yourself. Obviously, it gets more complicated with our elven brethren. But amongst us humans, I know of no society that makes that okay, and how could we all arrive to the same principle unless there was some innate underlying morality guiding it?
Very well. I agree with near every word that you've said. But let me ask, you say that morality is derived from an innate sense that exists in all people?
Yes.
And where would that sense come from?
I suppose our creation.
Our creation. And where does our creation come from? What I think
that is a problem.
It comes from the gods, of course.
Yes.
See, what you miss, you believe that there is contrast in the religions, but then we'll go on and turn around to immediately say that there is unity in the philosophies of morality that we share, saying that nowhere in Valeros can you walk into market and stab a man and have it be acceptable. And I completely agree, which means that that unity also exists in the gods. See, it may be that there are differences in the gods and how they are viewed, but it seems that there is some essence, some fundamental material that the gods are made of that encodes that morality, that then means that with any lens that you view divinity, you will still derive the same morality.
Well, there is one exception to all that.
Demons?
Yes, the Athnoine gods. Their
That
gods
is-
do speak of murder. They do speak of horrific bloodshed unleashed against their own kind and drowning the world in a tide of blood.
And they also make elves and not men. So it is completely compatible with your idea that it was from an innate sense in the people, shown through what kinds of people, if you're willing to allow me to even call elves that.
Perhaps that could be the reason for the through line of human supremacy throughout all the religions. It's that our morality is fundamentally different to those of elves and dwarves. I don't know as much about the dwarven gods, but from what I know of the Athnoine, I don't know how our people could ever exist as one.
I think that's an excellent observation. You seem to be studying quite well.
My mother would disagree with you. She says I should have made my pilgrimage to go to Lucca months ago, go visit the tomb of Rais, begin my indoctrination into the priest king's court.
Prior to the indoctrination, that all sounds like a wonderful time when you could learn quite a lot, but I think that your mother needs to realize that there are more ways than one to derive truth. God
I
also
just don't-
gave us the reason to think things through ourselves. And because of that, it's its own form of prayer.
I suppose I just don't find the Hellion pantheon particularly worship-worthy. I don't know if I don't deny their divinity. It seems impossible to do so when their living proof of their existence walks the streets with glowing eyes. But each of them is a self-admitted murderer. Rais is a self-admitted rapist. Koravash is a bloodthirsty tyrant by own admission. Ayam is perhaps the only one without sin, and yet she is one of the least worshipped of the five.
I completely agree.
Well, of course you would. You worship a god who burns men alive as sacrifices.
Well, sure, but that doesn't mean that I like the aliens.
Well, I have to go read more about those dwarven gods. What little I've heard of them from the west, they seem a reasonable enough folk, and the dwarves I've met here in the city have largely assimilated to our gods, but maybe their pantheon is unique.
Based on the interactions I've had with dwarves, I would be surprised to hear that it has the egalitarian view that you wish for.
She thinks for a couple of moments, and without much else to say, will wander away. And, you sort of survey your courtyard. Another person who has come to your courtyard very frequently, but is not here today.
Didn't expect to get only a half hour in and make an ontological argument for racism.
Welcome to Valeros.
Someone else who frequently comes to your courtyard for the last couple months is a soldier named Tridion. He's a sort of scientific interest for you because he claims to see spirits which haunt him.
Right.
And since ghosts are real, you've tried to confirm this multiple times, and yet they don't seem to be. And so you've been trying to uncover what's going on in there. But he is not here today, unfortunately. So that only leaves you with your 5 students. No other friends are in the courtyard today.
Okay.
None of them seem... Well, Tritnos and Achilles are over in the corner talking to each other, largely fucking off, both of them for different reasons. Charnax is seeking out... has left, seeking out that Dorvish tome. And Elusor was just sort of sitting off to the side listening to your conversation. He's always been a bit of a shy fellow. And then the oldest of your students, Priamnos, he has been trying to absorb, the classics, Eugemenes and the Vultures, Androcynus and the death of Eugemenes, just, the foundations of Zurian philosophy.
Cool. I'd like to kind of present or like stand in front of the class and turn out to be open to them and then say, students, listen up. Do I get everyone's attention?
Yeah.
I have a question for all of you today. And I'm speaking loud enough that I'm like kind of hoping that random townspeople walking by might come and make a crowd, but I don't really expect it to. It doesn't happen too often.
Yeah.
But I always kind of, throw that out there.
Yeah.
I have a question. A simple one. Is it wrong to bite another man?
There's a moment of silence, and then your youngest student, Elusor, will speak up and say, yes?
Yes. Elusor, good job. I agree.
Tritnos mumbles something under his breath, but you can't make it out.
Now, if a dog were to bite a man, that would be wrong of the dog to do, correct?
Elusor speaks up once again. Well, that's a bit more complicated of a question.
Why?
Well, I believe it was Leistus who said that animals are like golems. They possess no intelligence, so to attribute morality onto them is the same as blaming a wall for collapsing in an earthquake.
While I don't completely agree with that stance, I will concede it for the time being because I need not disagree with it for the point that I'm trying to make in a moment. So, very well. We won't say that it is wrong for the dog to do that. However, it would follow that if you were to punish it would be bad that a man was bit by a dog. Surely we can agree that that is a bad thing to have happened.
Elusor and Priamnos nod. Tritnos mumbles something under his breath, and Achilles kind of chuckles.
Fitness, I missed that.
Oh, well, I was just saying that it's not always bad for a man to be bitten. Some people are into that sort of thing.
Wow. Horrible thing to say. But again, I need not die on this hill to defend my point, so I will concede that there exists a man who likes to be bit. A man who does not want to be bit, it would be bad for him to be bit. You can agree with this?
Yeah.
Surely.
Sure.
And if a dog were to bite him, it would also be bad.
Well, again, I mean, have you seen those people down in the poor districts of the city? I swear, some men are into that sort of thing.
I mean a man that is not. A good man, like you or I.
Well, is it a good man or is it you or I?
Are you into... Alright. Would it be bad for a dog to bite me?
I suppose so.
Thank you. Now, can you agree that if I were to punish the dog, it would be less likely to bite me?
Elusor will speak up and say, yes.
Yes, of course.
My father, we had a litter of 7 puppies, and one of them, the little ones, was a biter, and the other one's been
and then you punished it, and then it stopped biting
well,
you.
not just it, but the whole lot of them.
Well, all of them. Even better. Now, I think that we can agree that if it's bad for a man to be bit by a dog once, it is worse for a man to be bit by a dog twice.
Everyone, including Tritnos, nods. That one seems pretty locked in.
So, if a man is to be bit by a dog once, it would then be good for the dog to be punished, so that then the man is not bit by a dog twice, which we have already established would be worse.
Priamnos looks up from his books for the first time and says,
Well, teacher, there's no ability to know that the dog will bite for the second time. The punishment is preemptive to the behavior. It seems wrong.
So for a specific dog, you're not sure that a particular punishment will have the effect that you want. However, we do know, taking that animals act at least somewhat like golems, that there is pattern in their behavior, and we have good confidence that the punishment will prevent the dog from biting. And acting on good confidence is the way that we act on virtually all decisions in life. I pour myself a glass of water without being totally confident that the jug has any more fluid in it, but I have good confidence to believe that. And so I take actions thusly.
Priamnos nods.
A very good question, worth clarifying. So, if a dog bites a man, and the man does not want to be bit, it is bad, and it would be worse if it happened a second time, and we have good confidence that if we punished a dog, then it would happen only the once and not a second time, so it would be morally good to punish the dog. We agree?
Everyone here seems to nod along.
Okay. Including Tritnos?
He's not really paying attention, but he just does a sort of vague head nod.
Okay, he just likes talking about getting bit by dogs and how that turns him on. No, it's the people down by the docks, guys.
I swear, it's those guys.
I have no idea what I came back to a few minutes ago.
Now, I think that we can also agree, even given all of this previous argument, that punishing a dog intuitively is in some amount wrong. There is some negative value, some amount of sin that comes in punishing a dog. You can see it by the very look on its face.
Pritnos and Achilles and Priamnos all nod, but Eluzor doesn't say anything. He's got a look on his face like he disagrees.
You think otherwise?
Well, I mean, the animals were created by Aurelian soul for our purposes, to make our life here pleasant. We wear their furs, we drink their milk, we eat their meat. Their purpose is to be at our disposal.
So, if I told you that I was entertained by killing puppies, and then I brought one and held it in front of myself and thought I would be entertained by killing this puppy, but I would be even more entertained by you slitting its throat, and I handed you the puppy and a knife and said that this puppy was created to be at my service and it serves me best by having its throat slit by you, you would have absolutely no problem in carrying this out.
Well, I would.
Why is that?
Well, I'd be concerned that you would take that behavior you've normalized against small defenseless creatures and then do it on your fellow man. Those people who, do horrible things to beasts, they carry that behavior onto other people.
You worry that... So you claim that it is bad to kill a dog because it might mean that you would want to kill a man.
Yes.
Wow. Does the butcher turn into the murderer? They kill a number of animals for value.
Elsewhere, a couple streets over, you can hear the clattering of a carriage as Eluzor thinks and says, well, no, I guess I don't know any butchers who have become murderers.
So I think that you can see that you have some other qualm then with killing a puppy. You believe that...
Well, there's just no point in it. There's no value extracted.
I just told you if it entertained me. I've told you if I was a person that was entertained by that, you should have no problem extracting that value, as you already said that it was made to serve me.
I don't know. They don't mention that in the Captiosan dialogues. They mostly speak of food and, necessary things, not just pleasure.
Is that the like a religious text?
Yeah, it's written by Saint Captiosus of the Aurelian Soul Faith.
This is not a question to be prescribed by faith, although you know I share it with you. I believe that this is a question that we can tackle only with our reason, or with our reason alone. I believe that you can come to the same truths by theology, but that is not the means by which I intend to convince you today.
Well, then, I suppose it just feels wrong, because pleasure isn't enough. I don't know, it just doesn't seem right.
So you at least then agree that there is some disvalue, some sin in harming an animal,
I suppose
without-
so.
right? But you believe that there needs to be some amount of value to justify that sin.
As he nods, the carriage that you were hearing some streets over has now pulled up to the entrance to your courtyard, and the door opens up, and a man steps out. You met him at a party about a week ago. You don't remember his name. You were sitting at that party thinking of the first little bits of your defense of the concept of war, and he complimented you on it. And as you look at his, fine Plains faction clothing, you vaguely recall his name starting with Odd, and considering his social class, you're pretty sure it'd be Oddnose, but you're confident in the odd part.
Oddness, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing quite well. How about yourself, Akbanex?
Very well, just speaking to my students. I answered a number of questions for townspeople earlier. A normal day for myself. Would you care for tea?
I'd be happy to.
I will gesture at the rich one to go pour him some tea.
Yeah, Achilles stands up, and
Jealous.
yeah, Akbanax, you notice one of your students, Tritnos. He has kind of moved to the edge of the courtyard behind a pot, clearly trying to avoid eye contact with this new arrival in the courtyard. The other three remain, Aluzor and Priamnos are still seated. Achilles goes off to get tea, but he's fully crouched behind a plant.
This was Tritnos?
Yeah,
The one who wants to have sex with a dog?
that's not what he said.
What?
He just
No.
implied it.
No shot.
He just implied that some people get pleasure out of getting bit by dogs.
Some people. Some people.
people.
Some people. Why do you hide, boy?
Oddnose, you follow his gaze and you see, a figure behind a plant, and the figure slowly emerges. And Oddness, you see your eldest son, Tritnos. You didn't even know he had any interest in really anything philosophical. You thought all he did was pour and drink and sometimes do fire moss. So it's a shock to see him in a semi-educational place.
Ritnos, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just walking through the area.
I see you. You stopped to listen to my friend here speak?
You know each other?
Briefly, a week or so ago.
No, I was actually just walking through to go to the armory. And he begins
Britnos.
to turn around.
Lying is sin. You
He
come to
turns
my class
around.
often, and you've been doing so for a while.
But sometimes lying is good
It is always wrong.
when it makes me feel less uncomfortable.
You
I
would
would
be
take
far more
that.
comfortable if you'd been telling the truth the whole time. You've only created this discomfort for yourself, and it must be cleansed now.
His face is bright red. He's a 27-year-old man. He slowly nods.
Well, it was lovely seeing you, both of you.
And he turns around and begins to walk away.
Well, it appears he needs to come to more of your classes if he's going to speak like a normal person.
He does not listen well.
Yes, I've known that for a long time.
But his attendance is better than some.
That's good to hear that he's put himself towards something. Eric's, how, is this an undignified thing for him to be doing?
Well, It's not bad. It's not that bad. Becoming an artist is a slight downgrade under the Plains faction, but considering you expected him to be dead of a drug overdose, this is actually quite a nice change of pace.
Yeah, nice. Good point.
At this point, a cellist will exit. He has a cup of tea for both of you. I think Akbanax, you are less. You don't notice like the quality of the cup of tea. It's not a thing that you really fuss about. But Oddness, since tea culture is a very big part of the Plains faction, you recognize that the person who made this cup of tea is not very experienced in Zurian tea culture. This is far too dark. It's going to be very bitter tasting, very caffeinated, make you energized. This person's not very skilled.
I'll still sip from it.
Yeah. And you see that there is a rug here, clearly for people such as yourself. Though your purpose of coming here is sort of a recruitment mission. So is that something you want to do in public?
No.
Well, I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Well, what brings you? Do you come with philosophical quandaries, or wish to know about the nature of magic?
Do you have a place we could speak in private?
I'm gonna look up at the sky to try and tell what time of day it is.
Yeah, that will perk the privacy thing will perk the ears of all three of your remaining students because that's very rare. And it is just after noon.
Okay. Class dismissed. I'll see you tomorrow, and I might be lecturing in the courtyard later, down by the market. You might find me there.
Oculus will skip away. Eluzor will slowly gather his books and walk away, and then Priamnos will walk over, and he'll give a nod to you, Akbanax, and then extend his hand towards you, Oddness.
I'll shake it.
Pleasure to meet you. Priamnos. I think you're a part of that, oh, what's that clan's name? One of the Plains factions, right?
Yes, we are the, hold on. Chalmaleros clan.
I think we're distant business relations. Your cousin purchased a mine from mine.
Which might your family be?
Oh, it's not an official one or anything like that. Up until about a year ago, I was a dus. But, well, wealth is a kind thing. Lots of lucky mining rights in the Thalassian woods. But it's nice to put a name to a face.
Yes, well, you as well.
I hope you find what it is you're looking for from Akbanax. Since, the fortune has come in, I've tried to re-educate myself, and he's been a good resource.
Thank you.
And he will walk away. He's dressed very commonly. Like, you couldn't really distinguish him to the rest of the students, but, his affectation and him talking about mining rights in the Thalassian wilds, you can put two and two together, Oddness. That guy is probably richer than your entire clan. You didn't know his name. You just knew stories of over in the Thalassian wilds, which is this section of hills and forests. Someone bought basically half of a mountainside and sold out the mining rights individually after doing like mining excursions to figure out what was located there. And some of them had gold, and those were sold for so much money to mine the contents of the mountainside. So quite a rich student.
Wow, and he didn't say his name?
He just said it in that conversation, but you didn't know it beforehand. Priamnos.
What was it? Priamnos?
Yeah.
All right.
He's a wise one.
Yes, he's quite becoming of himself.
So do you head into the small one-room house?
Yes. Yeah, we'll go
Alrighty.
inside.
Opening up the door, this is a kitchen area with a small little table with 3 chairs, and then there's a large cloth partition separating off the rest of the one-room house. It's, not terrible for the city of Zuri, though obviously for you, Oddness, it's very constraining in terms of size.
Yeah. Do I see anyone, listening in?
Nope. As far as you can tell, the courtyard's empty. I mean, if one person walks through on their way to it, likely to work, maybe from work, but no one seems to have much interest in this little shack.
You seem to attract the nobility here. I'd imagine that speaks well of your talents.
You may read from it what you wish.
And how has my son been doing? He's capable of arguing. Rhetoric.
He doesn't hold up too well in a dialogue. He mostly asks questions, and mostly about topics I don't spend much time thinking about.
What is he interested in?
Well, things such as, where beauty and joy come from, and what causes happiness. Never what, good happiness is for, which is something people ask me more often.
Interesting. Anyways, how has your work on the nature of war been coming along?
Well, I, just recently published my last text, Violence and Justice, and it's, well, I frankly wish it was a little more controversial. It seems that people read it and accepted it, but it is far from what I believe to be the status quo, which makes me think that maybe the people yet to understand it the way that I meant it.
But they've been receptive.
I'd say so.
I'll have to purchase a copy, I suppose.
Yes. I wish I had one to provide you, but I'm all out.
That's fine.
And I'm beginning to work on a new text as well. I don't know what to title it yet, but I'm getting more and more fascinated with ethics. I believe that I've solved many of the large problems in metaphysics, and I'm looking for new challenges.
Well, you'll have to keep me updated.
Of course.
That said, I do have something I'd like to bring up that's rather time restrained. Not quickly, but somewhat restrained.
Speak, man.
You've obviously shown interest in war. Are you mostly interested in the rhetoric, or do you have an interest in making it happen? In the actions itself. Not necessarily in fighting, but ensuring that fighting happens.
Well, I've always been more a man of debate and inspiration, but you're asking for a specific kind of help you think I'm uniquely qualified for, then I would be interested.
I'm involved in politics, and I've been thinking of running a campaign. Someone to take the office of Strategoi and hopefully launch a war for the greater good of the Dellian League.
Well, with who?
My thoughts go to Ekialden, who have
Ah.
been backsliding in their appreciation for democracy.
Seems justifiable.
Yes, I believe so. And I would be interested in, given your connections here in the urban center and among the philosophers and your reputation at large, I believe you would be an asset to the campaign if you wanted to help me manage it.
Oh. Well.
And surely, if this were to succeed, having the war in people's minds might make your works have a bit more kick to them in the minds of the populace.
Yes. A strong philosophical backing for a party. It's wise of you to ask. I must be confused. Are you running yourself?
I do not believe I have enough experience in the field of war, nor would I want to put myself up for a one-year position. Would you... I have someone in mind, but I don't suppose you were thinking of yourself.
No. No, I have far too much thinking to do.
I see. Well, in that case, I have a tenant who's somewhat of a war hero from the old Athnuine Wars. I was thinking of contacting him and seeing if he would be amenable.
Sure. I would meet the man. And if he seems credible and intelligent enough, I'd be willing to lend my support.
Excellent. Well, would you care to be going, or do you have more to do here?
The day is free.
Well, as the two of you make your way out to the carriage, we're going to cut away. Midion,
Yes.
it's been a long day. It's noon, and your body is already exhausted. You don't know how your father or your father before him or countless generation of farmers who have tilled to this land have been able to do what they do. You've been spending all morning straightening out these early growing sticks of wheat so that when the fall comes, they don't go toppling like last year's crop did. It caused all sorts of problems. And, you're wiping sweat from your brow. Generally, it's just not been a very good day, nor a very good spring. And you like keeping busy, though, because it keeps you distracted. And behind you, along the dirt, you can hear the sound of some dirt crunching. And, you sort of naturally just spin around to see its origin. And you see your aunt. Her posture is sort of like bent over a little bit. Her hands, big and gnarled, years and years of working on various farms, has sculpted her body. And she says,
Well, it's getting to about lunchtime. Are you going to come in for some food?
Yes, Aunt Paldia, might as well.
All right. Apparently, Junior got into some trouble. Nothing that you need to go deal with, but him and one of his friends are fighting, so if he's sulking, that's why.
Aye, thanks for letting me know.
and you and her begin to walk through the, wheat field back to the small little shack. It's only 3 rooms, but it contains your entire family, 8 people, including yourself. As you climb the low hill, you can see your mother is on the front porch. Your brother seems to be asleep in her lap. And as you get closer, you can start to smell alcohol from the porch. And once you're within, arm's reach, your mom just looks at you and sort of puts a finger over her lips, and you can see that your brother has, you don't know where he's getting the money to afford this alcohol or where he's getting the alcohol itself, but he is at about 1 p.m, completely passed out drunk on his mom's lap. And within your home, the only person inside is your wife. Your daughter, son, and youngest daughter are MIA.
I guess I'll walk inside then and say, hey, honey, have you seen the kids anywhere?
Well, Junior's down at the creek sulking.
Hi, I heard.
And then the 2 girls, I think they said they were going to go get, they found a patch of laceweed. I think they were going to harvest some, try to make some mittens for winter. You know how much laceweed they'd need, so.
Of course.
How is the wheat looking? We're not going to have last year's problem, right?
I mean, we'll see, but, if fate is graceful to us, hopefully, this will be a good one.
Well, I checked in with the chickens. They're all doing fine. Bessie, she's probably gonna have her kid in about 3 weeks, so I want all the goats to remain within the paddock. The worst thing to happen would be a fox takes her and the kid.
Hi.
And you sit down at the table with her. In the time since the death of your youngest son, she has been significantly more tired than you. I mean, both of you have been exhausted basically every single day, but she barely gets anything done, though of course you're never going to press her on it. The mood is not stellar, quite negative today.
Yeah.
And as your aunt plates you and your wife bits of stew that has been, basically it's a permanent stew. You keep the pot permanently heated and just keep throwing shit in there. This stuff's been on there since, well, probably since you got back from the Athenian War like 9 years ago. They just constantly throw shit in there. And you hear the sound of horses, a carriage rattling across ground, and you glance out your front door, which doesn't actually have a door, it's just an open doorway. And you can see that it's approaching your plot, and there is only one reason anyone would ever be approaching your plot, and that would be your landlord, though you shouldn't have to pay for another 15 days. And it's not like he makes social calls, so...
Honey,
Yeah.
we paid rent on time, right?
Your wife looks at you and nods and looks very concerned, and your aunt glances out the window and says, "Oh no. This happened when my husband died. The landlord showed up a month early, the day after I paid rent, so that if I didn't pay the next month, he would evict me."
It's all right, Aunt Palia. Odnos is a reasonable man. Surely he has more reasonable business than that.
Maybe. And you make your way out onto the porch. You have this phalanx of the women of your family beside you, your aunt, your mother, your wife, your passed out brother, as the carriage approaches the bottom of the hill. And sure enough, stepping out from the carriage, you see your landlord, Oddness. You also see another person. And Ben, describe what Ochbenax looks like.
Ochbenax he's wearing it would be appropriate to wear a toga, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, toga and sandals. He is a man in his early 30s, and he's quite strong. Not like built, but he uses his body quite a lot, and the muscles seem to be at least a little for show. He's got a kind of brown, bushy hair and beard. I don't know, like Mediterranean Chad.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, as the two of these get out of the carriage, and the servant, hops down to give Oddness a step out, what do these two wealthy men, well, not so much for Ochbenats, but what does Oddness see when he looks up the hill and sees your assembled family? What are you looking like, Midian?
What am I looking like?
What are you looking like?
Probably not looking too hot. I mean, standing tall a little bit, because I think, random landlords show up, it puts you a little bit on edge, but it's kind of a mix of fatigue and alert, I would say.
Okay. And the scene that you see, Oddness, you see three older women, a very clearly drunk adult man, and then the person that you came here to visit.
Goodness, hello. As I've always been telling you, the master's eye is the best fertilizer.
I'll laugh at that. Midian, how is your family? How have you been?
Well, busy. This is about the time where we're really putting in more hours than ever, and of course, the recent death of my sons weighed heavily on the family, but we make do.
Yes, I heard. I'm very sorry to hear of his passing.
Yeah. And how are your sons?
They're good. I've seen both of them today. They're doing well.
Very good. And forgive me asking, who's this with you?
Oh, yes, my apologies. This is the philosopher Ukbenax. And Ukbenax, this is one of my tenants, Midian.
Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Midian's wife will speak up, and she'll say, we paid our rent for this month.
Yes, I understand. I'm not here to get more sooner than needs to be.
You watch as
here.
all four people assembled on the porch that are conscious, their postures relax significantly. And his wife wanders off. The mom picks up the drunk man and walks away, and the aunt heads back inside. Soon enough, it's just you and Midian and Okbenax.
Midian, you've been a loyal tenant for many years now.
Of Of course, and you've been good to me in return.
Yes, I like to think so. We have a rather large project we're working on, and believe you might benefit us, and gain benefits from it.
Aye.
You have military experience, yes, with the Asnuin.
Yes.
No need to be so nervous about it. You are a hero. The people
It was
here...
a long time ago.
Yes, but the people here still know your name, don't they?
Yes. But many of us fought in that war.
We are looking to find someone to take on the position of Strategoi, and we believe that you might be a good fit.
Strategoi. Why me?
Like I said, you've proven loyal, you have military experience, and I believe that with someone with your character and experience at the front, and wise men guiding you from behind, such as myself and others, that you would be able to do very good for Zuri and the Dellian League at large.
I mean, the man you've brought with you looks like he just came right out of the assembly. Why not him?
Excuse
He
me?
does.
Why me? Why not you, sir?
Or I'm no soldier. I'm a philosopher. I have no experience in war, and I have no intentions of spending my days in service. I have books to write.
Maybe one of these days you can swap out a pen for a plow and maybe see more of the world than you'd think.
I see plenty of the world as it is now.
Very
How
well.
much word do you get of the outside world down here? What do you know of geopolitical events?
Oh, very little. I know, just down the street, what's his name? Driscus, right? Another tenant of yours, I believe. I know he joined the assembly for a little bit, but it's really the latest of the politics that I know of.
Yes, I think I've heard something of that.
Yeah, you
Well-
would know that around here, their level of engagement with politics is very minimal. By assembly, he likely means the Deme Council or some elected body. You're not sure. He means something elected.
I totally didn't hear about that, yeah. Well, I won't mince words then. The situation in Echialden has taken a turn for the worse. They're sliding into an autocracy, and we believe it is the duty of Zuri to reclaim democracy there, as well as to save Piav from slaughter at the hands of Echialden. We want to march on Echialden, but we will need a Strategoi sympathetic to us, and we believe that you might fill that role.
Marching? I mean, you're speaking of war.
Yes.
For good. War for good.
Indeed. I mean, but what of the land? What of the harvest?
If you were to partake in this, I'm sure I could work out I would not seek to exploit you so long as you're aiding us in this position. I would be sympathetic to your rent.
Very well. You've given me reason over the years to trust you now. I guess the only other question I have is where do we start?
Eric, that's an excellent
Yeah.
question.
So we can, take a step back and explore how to get to the office of Strategoi, Chief General of Zuri. So, step one would be that you go to your local Demark council, or just the Demark himself, and announce that you would like to run for office. It is quite literally that simple. Then, a month from now, on June 15th, at the Demark's home, will be held the Demark Selection Council. You either need just the Demark and half of the Demark's council, or
all of the Demark Council. Though here, in this particular Deme, which is the geographic area in which you are running, they almost always do unanimous vote. So you need everyone on the Demark Council to agree. If it is an uncontested position, which you should be able to figure out just by asking the Demark, it'll be easy. You just kind of show up and they'll pick you. If it is contested, then on the day of will be your only chance to officially campaign. Outside of that, you can meet with individual counselors and do all that stuff. And once you've gotten the Deme selection, things get more complicated. But in the short term, you have about a month before the Deme selection takes place. So that's how long you have to get them on your side.
How many counselors are there?
Here in the Deme of Panadonius, there are 4 council members, 1 Demark.
One Demark.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And do I know any of them? Am I like related to any of them?
No, unfortunately, this is not where the majority of your family is actually located. Yeah. But I'll just list through the council members, and you guys should know on your sheets if you know any of those people. But yeah, I'll put those names in the chat. So we have Demark Prothnos, Councilmember Acristus, Councilmember Otter, Councilmember Polinos, and Councilmember Biros.
All right. And you said those might be on our sheets.
Yeah, if you know them. I'm pretty sure the only one that has a connection here is, I think Midion knows Acristus.
Yes, that's my neighbor.
Yeah. AKA also your tenant.
Oh, hype.
Additionally, if you want to go to announce your candidacy, that's quite trivial, as in we probably don't need to play it out. And you will learn there is one other person running for Stratagoy in this Deme.
Mm-hmm.
His name is...
Who is he? Let's kill him.
Jesus Christ.
Ice him. We're gonna ice him. He bit me.
Where is he? You guys run in. His name is Priamnos.
Priamnos. Is that... I heard that name earlier.
Did you?
That was the...
That's the name of my student.
That was
Student,
Priam. Yeah, they do have the same name. That is true.
It's a
They're likely
coincidence.
different people, but they do have the same name.
Do we know anything about Priamnos?
He is the son of the current Demark.
Son of... Alright.
And if you want to distinguish these, it could be Priamnos of Zuri would be Akbanax's student, just so that we're not getting confused.
Okay. So the Demark likes this guy, so that's not good for us because
it's his
son.
dad, yeah.
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 So that's a rough start.
Yeah, and a reminder though, in this district, you need unanimous. So, like, an example. Let's say
Demark plus half.
that isn't how most Demes work. However, here in particular, there is like an unspoken rule that it's unanimous. Everyone for the last 20 years has been unanimous since the dictator Strabo.
Including the Demark.
Yeah.
So I've got to make him hate his own son. Okay.
Well, maybe not, because again, if, for example, you get one council member that refuses to change their mind, you may be able to, like, you just don't know what would happen in that instance.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, you're not sure what would happen if the Deme didn't submit its candidate on time. So if you can just get one person to really like you, that enough may be able to throw a wrench in the works.
Okay. Do we have any idea the platform Priamnos is going on?
Yeah, let's get everyone here to just make me some basic charisma checks. Yeah.
We're rolling. Let's go.
We're rolling.
rolling?
First rolls of the campaign.
Flat charisma.
Flat charisma.
With advantage, because I'm charming.
Nope, but also you still got the highest so far, so let's see Midion's charisma
Come on,
roll.
Midian.
All right.
Oh, those are some rough checks.
You know what's funny? Because each of you has like a slightly different DC on this because you know more or less about this area. Knockmanax had the highest DC because he knows the least about this area.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I think over the next week, you guys can, after you've announced candidacy of Midian, you can start to ask around. And what you will find is that they don't really do positions at this level, like in the Deme level. It's like you get, for example, histories of previous speeches given. You talk to some locals, like Midian's neighbor, and you get sources from them. And what you seem to get the vibe of is that at this local level, it's all about who you know and what you've done for them lately. It has literally nothing to do about policy. Just getting nominated is an honor in its own right, so it mostly has to do with what I'd call small-scale bribery and like community building.
Okay.
Great.
Is my uncle still at home?
Since we're kind of zoomed out on the timescale, you can certainly meet with him in a reasonable time span, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna want to ask him about all these council members and Preamnos. Yeah.
Do you want to bring Akbanax and Midian along?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well then, 2 or 3 days after this initial meeting, where all three of you got together, you work out when Akbanax will be free. And the three of you get inside of Oddness's carriage, and rather than going to the estate of Oddness, you go to his uncle's estate, which is, while it's just technically up a hill, is an entirely different Deme. And the estate is a relatively small one. It's heavily forested up here. It's not that elevated, but the air is technically a little bit thinner. And logging is the big thing up here. And you all ride in on a carriage. A master servant escorts you out, and soon enough you all find yourselves in a very odd dining room. You're used to large open spaces. This is a compressed one with wood as like the primary paneling of every single surface, with a fireplace burning more wood and paintings that use wood as like the texture piece of the painting. It's a lot of wood. And a little bit later, an older man will finally enter. You all have various drinks. Midian, you got your old military uniform because it's the only thing you have other than peasant clothes. Nice. And Akrisno steps in and he walks over to you, Oddness, and pats you on the head.
I'll hug him.
Hello.
Hello, Uncle.
Pleasure to meet you two. I don't think we're... Oh, wait. You're Midian.
Yes, sir.
It must have been a decade since I've seen you marching off to the north to fight the Athnoin.
Yes, much has happened since. How are you doing?
Oh, well, it's a cold spring.
Aye.
He sits down in a chair. And, who's this other fellow?
This is Akbanax, the philosopher of Zuri.
Philosopher or clergyman?
Philosopher.
Well, how can I help you?
This
doesn't seem like a social visit.
I wanted to introduce you to these two, since they're going to be rather relevant to my life for the foreseeable future. I also wanted to ask a few questions, what you know about the council members of the Demark. Of the Deme, I should say.
I assume you mean yours.
Yes. Oh, does he not live on? Okay. But yeah.
Well, obviously, I mean, when I ran the estate, Chalmaleros and the clan, I got to know a couple of those fellows. Who's still on the council?
Christus, the Demark Proknos, whose son is running, Odor, Polinos, and Biros.
I don't know this Christus fellow or this Odor fellow. I know of the other three, though. Proknos is... Well, he once fought. About 20 years ago, he served in the citizen militia when Strabo ruled the city. I don't really know what he's been up to since, but I know that he's quite poor, on the scale of the Plains faction anyways. I believe he only has about 10 tenants, paying rents and such. Polinos is his brother. I don't remember much details about him. I don't even know if he served, so I'd suspect him to be much like the Demark, only poorer. And Biros, I vaguely recall. I know he's a foreigner. I just can't remember whether he's from Apar or Gladel, but at this point, I mean, it's been 6 years. I'm sure you know the type.
Yes, I've hired several of them, so.
Exactly. So I don't recall which of the two he's from, but you can expect the usual things out there.
Do you have any general advice for me, Uncle? It seems like if this Priamnos who's running, both his father and uncle are on the board, I doubt it will be easy to.
Well, I'd recommend meeting with that Acristus and Audor, those two. Commoners may be more receptive to our Midion here. Biros would be worth speaking to. And you could speak with Polynos. Perhaps for some reason he has a grudge to hold against his brother. Perhaps, I'm not sure. As for the Demark himself, well, there is the blunt approach of just giving him coin. I would never advocate for it. I think it's tantamount to corruption, but it probably would work. If you need, I don't know how much you've committed yourself to this path, but if you need funding, I could put you in contact with a friend.
I would be interested. I don't know that we need it for sure just yet, but I would certainly be interested.
Have you heard of the Thanadil Mining Corporation?
Yes, they're very wealthy.
Yes, and they're the owner, the business, Procor. He lives within. Well, he typically lives within Zuri, but a couple of years ago he bought an estate out here in my Deme. I've had him over for dinner. I've gone over to his home. A lovely house. And I know that he's very interested in politics. Last year, he sponsored candidates for all 4 major offices. So, for him, it'd be pocket change.
I've heard he's always speaking about the peonage laws, yes?
Yes, he would love for more people to go into the mines, but luckily you're running for Strategoi, so you wouldn't have to do such a dark thing.
Yeah. Still. But yes, I'd love to meet with him.
All right, well, I can arrange a meeting. I'm sure he could find that philosopher of yours quite entertaining.
Most do.
But is it for the right reasons?
Of course.
In my experience, most people out here in the plains view your type much like they do jesters or singers.
In my experience, they pay attention to me for such reason and then spend weeks thinking about what I've said.
You're quite full of yourself, aren't you?
You'd have to be a philosopher.
I suppose so. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't furnish you with more advice. If you've been running in my Deme, I could drag skeletons from the earth and tell you of what the Demark Council fears, but in your Deme, I'm a bit less awares.
Yes, well, still, it is better than what I knew.
And if you wish, I know that our clan name holds weight. A promise of support, as long as you're willing to cash into it when the time comes, could be enough to sway, at least, perhaps even the Demark. Again, across all of our family's properties, we probably have some 100, maybe even 200 tenants, if you include the cousins. His quote-unquote clan only owns 2 properties, last I recall, and with a little bit less than 12. Well, they're very small fish.
Yes, and you've agreed to back me. Cousin has shown interest.
I would
Eric's
not throw that around. His father's association with Strabo doesn't make him any friends out here.
Yes, I suppose that's true. Eric's, who else would I need to get in the family to have the backing.
Yeah, so if you wanted to speak on behalf of your whole clan, technically, because you own the primary residence of your clan, that being Chalmaleros, you can just do that. You can just be like, I speak on behalf of the family. But if you wanted to be proper about it, you would likely want to go speak to your great uncle, Mernos, and then your second cousin, Notnosa, because those two are the only other major landowners in the family.
All right, yeah.
Because if you get all 5 of those on board, that is every member of your clan that actually has tenants, and that's kind of like the metric of, does your opinion matter?
All right. So if I could get my family on board, get money, get meetings.
That's if you want to do the most blunt approach ever, which is you walk into the selection meeting and say, hey, we're rich as fuck. We're really influential. Make my guy Stratagoy now. Which you could do. You could definitely steamroll it for sure.
What are the drawbacks of that?
I don't even know if there necessarily is, just that you have to like go schmooze your own family members rather than this DMARC council. I guess the question is, which do you think will be easier?
I'll have to try and set up meetings with the council first.
Okay. Yeah, so which counselors would you like to meet with, and who would you like to take with you?
Can I use the restroom and think about it?
Yeah, we can take a quick 5-minute break.
Okay.
5-minute breaky.
We'll be right back. So, we got a couple different avenues that we could go down in regards to the DMARC Council. We got a month, plenty of time. What do we want to do next? And for this session, Oddness, you're going to kind of be taking the lead just because this is your realm of expertise. I suspect when we get to the Paralia, or certainly the voting of the tribe, it'll be more Akbanax and Midian. But for this one, what are you thinking?
Was it? No, Biros was just the.
He's the council member. Yeah. Do you want me to include the name of your 2 family members as well?
Yeah, sure. I've got those on my sheet.
Oh yeah, true. I forgot.
I'd say we start by just hitting up a council member. We'll start with Biros.
Okay.
I'm
Who are you
gonna
bringing
take.
with you?
Who do we want to take? I'm listening, boys, because
Bring your son.
I
really
was
charming.
thinking that.
Not a bad idea.
I wanted to. If
So
we
you're
have
taking
to go to
Tritnos,
my-
right?
Yeah, bring your son Tritnos.
I don't think these people are into dogs, but
Nor
If
is
they
he
are,
for legal
we
purposes.
We should cover our bases. What if there is someone?
That's
into
true,
dogs?
actually. I heard that. I heard this guy once say a hypothetical. What if people like getting bit? And I think that's something to engage with.
Dude, what if, can you imagine like bringing your like dipshit son, like 27-year-old like piece of shit son everywhere with you? You go, and he's never allowed to say anything. And then you meet one guy that's like, man, I wish that I knew people that liked getting bit by dogs. And you're like, you wouldn't believe it. You talk to my son over here.
Oh, man.
alrighty.
Distraction tactic.
So you bring your son.
He's good to bring to my family. I guess I might as well bring him to the council members. Good for him
This
to
is
know the people in
Elustus?
the Deme. Yeah.
All right, cool. That's
I
it.
want to bring. Yeah, sure. Do either of you guys have a good reason you should come?
No,
Maybe next.
I don't know. Who are we
Median
talking to? What's this guy? Like, what's he
Council
good at?
member Biros.
Yeah,
a
what's he about?
foreigner. That's all you know about him. That is
Oh,
literally
then
the
we're
only thing you know.
definitely not bringing Midian.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it.
Wait, I don't. What's wrong with Midian?
He's poor.
Oh,
and
that is
so
true.
an
He is
Aparian
poor,
won't
yeah.
like him.
Yeah, that's true. He is poor.
I'm also poor.
Yeah. The Akbanax literally lives on government assistance.
That's crazy. All right.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
only money
That
comes
is
from the
gonna sound
master of
awful.
ceremonies.
Yeah, I do also decline all payments.
Yeah,
So-
which doesn't help.
He's a
Okay.
neat.
So it's
Neat
just
pal.
oddness, except he works. All right, so it's just oddness and your son. So the estate of Biros, if you could call it that, is an odd one. Here
Wait, can you be a NEET if you're a teacher? I'm in education in the sense that I teach a group of students.
You should ask that to your students and engage in a
Yeah, that's a
Socratic
question.
dialogue.
Yeah,
That is a
that-
NEET.
That's a question for the philosopher.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm just really getting into the headspace. Okay,
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
can a teacher be NEET?
All right, so
Paused.
on this, you make your way to the estate of Biros, and unlike many estates here in Zuri, which are almost inherently tied to this idea of large agricultural holdings, the estate of Biros is very small. It's just a super nice house, and that's it. No plots of land attached to it, no like horse paddock. By like Plains faction standards, he looks poor as shit, but his house is literally one of the nicest you've ever seen within this Deme. You've never met him. When he moved into the area, he built this house, and he's not very social, doesn't attend many functions with other members of the Plains faction, so you don't know him. But you send forward your master servant.
Repeat how he makes his money, how he
You
got
don't know.
that nice house. Huh.
He just came from Apar or Gladel to the city. So you send your servant forward asking for a meeting. He agrees, and you guys determine that you will have dinner and then a game of what he calls strike pin, which you don't know what that means, but you're sure that you'll figure it out on the fly. Nothing to be worried about.
Surely.
And an evening after announcing your candidacy, you arrive at Biros' estate. Your son is dressed up in fine clothes, you alongside him. You've tried to go for a more traditional Western style, Western Dellian League style fine clothes, which look closer to military uniforms. If you wore these to like a house party at your own house, people would think you're being formal, traditional, and weird. But you think it'll go well with this guy. And you get out of your carriage, you approach the house. A master servant answers the door. He gives you a bow and says, "Welcome to the estate of Lord Birnos. Do you have any food restrictions?"
No.
Wonderful. Well, then, if you could join Lord Birnos on the rear lawn for a game of strike pin.
Gladly.
Wonderful. You can walk around the exterior of the house, the interior still being prepared for the dinner.
All right, we'll walk around the exterior.
Yeah, as you guys are walking, your son's largely staring at the architecture of this building to your left as you make your way around the right side of the building. He's looking at the strange column structures, and he pauses and sort of points out, and you see that in between two of these columns, there's this little mural on the side of the wall, and it is a old man laying on the ground. An armored boot is on his throat, and the person wearing the armored boot is in full plate armor, and it has AK, the letters A and the letters K in the mural. And your son sort of looks at it. "This is rather grim."
Have you talked to Aelros enough to know what the Ipar and Gladelians are like?
I mean, he's a bit disciplinary, but no worse than anyone I met when I was in the citizens militia.
Do you have any idea what AK means?
I don't know. I suppose that's something we can ask our host about. It's good to have conversation topics prepared.
Yes.
And you continue your circumnavigation of the house. When you come to the rear lawn, you find that about for 100 feet, all the trees have been cut down, the stumps uprooted, leading to this green lawn that's uncultivated. You don't know why anyone would ever do this. You don't have this at your own estate. It immediately becomes, agricultural land. Here it's just grass. Just plain old grass. And on this grass, you can see that there are this very complex setting up of wooden pins with lines of paint basically drawn out on the ground, almost making courts. You don't know what game this is. You're not sure. And there's these big sort of wooden balls at the position at the end of each of these courts, opposite of these collections of pins. You're not really sure what you're looking at here, but you can see that up on a veranda, a stone veranda overlooking the rear lawn, is a collection of tables, 3 or 4, though they're really only occupied by 2 people. That being a very wealthy looking, you can't really tell he's Western Dellian. Even his outfit looks very Zurian in nature, but he looks to be the wealthiest one seated there. And then a younger man, maybe same age as your son, seated next to him.
Double date with sons.
Okay.
Yeah, Jackson.
The older man doesn't really acknowledge you and just looks out towards the pins. Yeah.
Hello, it was a pleasure to meet you both. I am Odnos. This is my son, Ilusnos.
Man will glance over. Biros. And this is my servant.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Biros. May we sit?
Please.
I have to admit I've never played this game before.
I believe we
Never.
got it from the Cocklanders. They may be savages, but they have a number of entertaining games. Axe throwing was a particular favorite of mine. It's not the same without live targets.
Interesting. We have a few games around here, but nothing like that.
They all seem to center around horses.
Yes, horse culture is rather prevalent around here. Do you not have that? And may I ask which city-state you're from?
We had a joke back in Gladell that the reason your people were so obsessed with horses was because your women's interest in them.
All right.
He doesn't smile.
It's good that you brought your son. It's good that you brought your son.
Yeah.
What was I saying?
I can't believe I drew up that bit and it came true like 4 minutes later.
I don't know how to talk to Gladellians, man. Fucking foreigners.
Well, Biros will gesture towards the servant next to him and say,
Go show them how it's done.
and the young man walks out onto the green. He picks up the circular piece of wood, the sphere, and he chucks it overhand in the direction of the pins. And because of how spaced out the pins are, you think at most he could hit 2 or 3. And it's a pretty good lob, so he manages to knock down 3 of the pins, leaving 2 remaining in this row.
So it's like throw bowling?
Throw bowling, and it's significantly further. It's about 40 feet.
Bocce bowling.
Yeah.
How far is normal bowling?
I think normal bowling's, I'm thinking in my head. In my head, I was going to say 20 feet, but that feels way too short. Because I'm thinking if I lay down a bowling thing, it's a great question, actually. How long is a bowling alley?
I think it's like 40 feet.
Oh my god, it is 40 feet. No, it's 60 feet long. Damn.
60?
That's great. Yeah,
Dude,
42 inches wide, 60 feet long. That's wild.
That was the last time I ever trust you to judge a distance.
Listen, I knew 20 was wrong the second I said it, but I had to think about it. Anyways, Biros will gesture towards your son. Your son will give a big smile. No reaction. He heads out to the grass. Him and the servant will, chat a little bit back and forth. They seem to be talking about technique and stuff like that. And your son lobs it. And strength is not the limiting factor here. It's just that he doesn't do this. You guys don't throw javelins. You're not there's not a big throwing thing. You're just not throwing very many things. You don't do slings. And so he's able to get it far enough. It just does not land within this very narrow, less than 2 feet across band that you need to hit these pins. And so it splats into the grass. And for the first time, Biros reacts, and this little high-pitched wheezing exits from his body that you assume is laughter. And he'll look over to you and then stand up and say,
Well, I suppose it's a chance for me to stretch my throwing arm.
and he takes off his outer coat. He walks down the steps. He picks up the ball, which your son has grabbed, and gives it a toss. And he hits 1, leaving 2 pins. No, leaving 1 pin of the 5 remaining. And then all 3 of them look at you.
All right, time to butcher it. What do I do?
Give me a strength check, Oddness.
Oh,
Listen, you and your son have
flops.
opposite problems.
He flops.
He's really strong. He just can't aim it. You're not really strong, and it plops into the grass about 10 feet shy of where the rest of the pins are located. And you once again hear that high-pitched wheezing noise. And
Well,
this is basically, yeah.
I was gonna say I suppose we need some practice.
Barros will say nothing. And this is roughly how it continues for the next, because as you move on to the next lane, the initial lane is reset by servants, and then you go back to that one. And it's tiring, man. You're like full strength throwing a 5-pound piece of wood as far as you can while also trying to be accurate. It's hard. Your arm is like dead after like 10 throws. Honestly, so is Biros. He's not throwing well either. It's literally just your son and his servant boy that are actually competing to see who can hit things. And obviously the servant boy is much better because he's done it a lot more. So like the ending score is, well, you try to keep it out of your mind. It's very one-sided, we'll put it that way. And during it, there's not much small talk. I mean, your son small talks with the servant, and he tries to occasionally, give a broad smile to Biros and bring him in on the conversation, but you just get nothing. And eventually,
I'm gonna start some small talk. I'm gonna say, my recent overseer I've hired, Oilros. He's from Ipar. He's done very well for us.
Is he a coward?
In what sense? Of course not.
All of them. Most Iparans are.
Oh, that's right. They were at war. Fuck. He's been very efficient in dealing with a lot of the tenants, the people who work our fields. Certainly more so than most Zurians, but I haven't discussed much with him.
Keep an eye on your vault.
Yes, we always like to.
Yeah, you fail to strike up long-term small talk.
Continue
with
this train wreck, yeah.
Yeah, he's a conversational terrorist. It's impossible. And after about 10 more rounds of this, you're just throwing limply. Like, you try to, play it off, haha, I'm still going, but it's just, you're not getting anywhere. It's getting worse and worse. And eventually, Biros realizes this, that both he and you are basically doing nothing, so the two of you retire up towards the chairs, and at this point, your son and this servant are just laughing, they're chatting. They're kind of playing the game. They're mostly just having a conversation at this point. And
my
Biros
son schmoozed the wrong guy, damn it.
And Biros, seeming he knows that, now this is where we socialize because we're here and they're over there. So he orders some servants to bring some alcohol, some wine and some beer placed on the table, and he says, "So, you live around here?"
I have my whole life. We own an estate.
It's
Pleasant
weather.
Chalmeleros. Yes, it's good weather.
Your tenant system is very familiar. I prefer it to other cities.
Oh, yes? What's appealing about it to you compared to the rest?
It makes it clear where a man is in life. If he is owned by another, he is a commoner, his opinion can be ignored. When I was getting elected as council member, I never even had to speak to them.
Yes, how did you become councillor?
There are two landlords near here, Polynos and Proknos. I spoke with them, expressing my desire to get involved in your political system, and they recommended council member being a good starting point.
Yeah. It is quite good, as I've learned. You have heard that one of my tenants has announced himself as a candidate for Stratagore.
I suppose. I assure him you have nothing to do with that, right?
I do. I have, he is a very, respected war hero, and with, his family indebted to me, I figured he would be a good candidate to run, whereas I, help to advise from the rear, as you might say.
I rather view him and his ilk like small dogs, those types that the women in the city carry around in purses, humping my leg.
Yes, I doubt he would be good at the position on his own without my advisement. That's why I have been so involved. It's me meeting with you as opposed to him.
I remember when I was a Marquis in Gladell, there was much talk about, amongst the dissident classes, about how, our system was barbaric, the only monarchy left in the whole league, they would claim, and say how different Zuri and Beltza and Piave and Echialden were. And then, my first week here, I was approached by Polinos and Procnos, and they told me that if I wished a political position, it could be done. There would be no need to give speeches, no rhetoric. It is amusing.
Yes. We're a lot less restrictive than Gladell.
It is not that different. When you're in Gladell and you wish to, let's say, move up the ranks, what do? You find a man who is wealthier than you get to his side, you serve him in battle, you be loyal to him above all else. Here, it is quite the same. Perhaps for Stratigoy it's a different thing. I've not yet attempted to present myself before the tribe, though I doubt I ever would. I don't really respect the opinion of the jeering apes.
Yes, I can respect that. There are certain people who are better at decision making and leadership.
I mean, even your fundamental premise, that fool Eugemenes, it's a marvel to me how you all respect him so much. We remember him as the footnote to the story of a great man.
Ah, yes, Androkinus. I hear he's quite popular outside of Zuri.
He is a foundational philosopher. I studied his works when I was in Symposium. So, you've come here on behalf of your
Midian
tenant.
and
Sure.
yes.
And since I am council member and you are candidate, I assume you wish for me to support him.
Yes.
When you Zurians say my name, you say Biros. Os. Well, Ros, meaning foreigner. Where I was from, in Gladell, I was known as Binios, lesser nobility. Now, I have asked many people and been informed that you do not do that here. There is only Yon for those who have served in the post of Basilius, and for everyone else in the entire city is something below that of Neos. So Nos would be an acceptable alternative. That's my condition.
Eric, how would I go about doing that?
You would have to apply to the Archon of the city to officially promote him and his immediate lineage to the rank of landed merchant.
Would it be likely to be granted if I did appeal to the Archon?
They kind of do it all the time. Like, they're constantly
Okay.
changing, upgrading people to different classes, and demoting them if they fuck up. But the hardest part is getting the meeting. If you get the meeting, it's basically guaranteed. He doesn't care. He has so much other important things to do. But that meeting, that's going to be difficult.
Huh. I'm happy to appeal to the Archon. I certainly have connections up there.
Well, you'll do better than me then. I've been trying to meet with him for 4 years, and, well, here we are. Biros. When I went to the Archon's office several years ago to apply to meet with him, I was told to wait in the line with the other foreigners. They pointed me at a line of Ath and the Ween.
Embarrassing.
Humiliating. Well,
God, this guy is a terrorist. Oh.
Conversational
how to
or
talk to
otherwise.
Both.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know how to talk to him or anything.
Yeah, well,
Just insult elves.
a bit of silence lapses. You hear a cheer go up from your son as he finally strikes more in a single throw than the young man that he's playing against. And seeing that your conversation has lapped, your son he comes over. He has long since taken off his coat. He's just wearing, basic blouse, trousers, boots. And he says, well, this pinstrike game of yours is quite nice. I don't know how it hasn't been introduced sooner. Are we going to eat? And Biros will slowly nod. And when you transition to the dining room, the young man is discarded somewhere because only the three of you end up sitting down for dinner. And man, you know, your son, he's really trying. He's talking about anything and everything. He's talking about horses, dead-end conversation. He talks about woodworking, dead-end conversation. He talks about the house. That goes on for about 10 minutes, dead-end conversation. He said, and then finally, your son broaches the topic and asks him how he was spared the fall of Gladell. And from that point forward, Biros just doesn't talk at all. No attempt at eliciting conversation is successful, and eventually your son gives up and just starts admiring the room openly to the listening audience, basically monologuing about how nice the house is. And shortly after finishing his plate, Biros will stand up. Well, I think the two of you should leave.
Yes, I'll see if I can speak to the Archon.
He nods.
Okay, and we'll
You
leave.
and your son you exit the house and basically 10 step as you guys are climbing up to the carriage, your son glances over and says, I'm sorry, I didn't think it would provoke silence. I thought perhaps he'd want to share. I seemed the type.
It's fine. Those people are backwards.
No, the servant was a kind guy. He's from here, from Zuri.
Yes, which is why he isn't backwards.
All
and
right.
then I'm gonna rant about Aparians and Clodellians on the way home.
Yeah, he'll just stay silent. He's heard a couple of these before. Alrighty, well, we can reconvene the brain trust of the three of you guys. How are we feeling about Biros' vote?
Okay, so that went poorly. Thoughts from you two?
I think you fumbled it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I think I should have seen that coming. You're bad at this.
That's fucked up. Don't say that to him. Bro, send Bennett alone. Make him do it now.
I'll do it so well. I always win. I'm a little Rizzler.
Oh, God. Don't call yourself that.
What would you have done? Just
played it better.
Bro.
Yeah, no
okay,
Probably
ignore
charmed
him.
him.
He's trolling.
Rolled higher.
roll time.
Yeah, that's true. You did get a 5 on your strength check.
You should. Yeah. I would have probably knocked those fucking pins over.
Yeah, and the pins would have changed everything for sure. Well.
Probably made fun of the right kinds of foreigners.
Yeah, the par one was a big throw.
That was the hardest fumble, that was all me.
Yeah.
That's thing. Was slave owning autocracy versus the other slave owner.
Dude, this is why you make fun of Athnoeans.
It kind of is true, yeah.
My
You come up with like a
character's
list of 6 Athnoeen jokes and it's Jover. You're basically going to become Stratagoy.
My character's too nice to do that. I should have had Akbanex then. Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have made fun of. Well, I guess my guy doesn't make jokes like that.
Yeah, but you're cosmically racist.
Cosmically. Oh man. Okay, well, what counselor do we want to bring to our side? Do we want to actually invest the time and resources to try to get a meeting with the Archon?
For now, I'm gonna send my son to meet with Akristus, and I'm gonna meet with Odor.
Okay. Would you like to report on how your son's meeting went before or after you meet with Odor?
Before.
Okay. Would you like to take anyone to meet? Actually, I'll give you the report first. Basically, Akristus was gonna endorse Midian the second he heard that he was announcing, and your son just drank beer with him, said that his house was really nice, gave him a couple gold and left.
Huge.
Do you want to take anyone with you to
Send
Odor's?
the boy. Let's go.
Is it just you going to Odor?
Did Akristus say anything about Odor?
Your son would not have asked that. He was just trying to get this guy's vote.
Yeah, all right.
I will say, Odor. Or means that he is a master craftsman, meaning he is technically in terms of prestige higher than you, though obviously in material reality likely significantly poorer.
So I don't know. I don't know if that changes who you want to bring with you.
Would you respect either philosophers or wages?
Depends on his personal persuasion. Most Ors, so most master craftsmen living within the city walls, are firmly a part of the guildsman faction, but none of the three of you are guildsmen, and also he doesn't live inside the city, so who knows?
I'm gonna take Okpanax, because might as well.
Okay.
Someone to
Alrighty.
save me from myself.
So everyone but the candidate for office?
Yes, unless
Okay.
Minion really insists on coming.
Nah.
Nah. All right.
I don't insist.
The two of you guys get in the carriage. You trundle on over to the House of Otter, and it is definitely a tenant that a property he's renting from someone. Like you see it oddness, and you immediately recognize this is not a place where he lives. It's agricultural in nature, just all that stuff. And you arrive at the base of the hill. It's a bit nicer than Midion's house, about 6 rooms instead of 3, but it is still quite a few people. You see kids playing, and will look to be probably, you don't know how old Odor is, but maybe his kids, brothers, something like that, tending to the fields. And as you climb the hill, all of this movement slowly grinds to a halt, and people begin to cluster around the entryway. And a middle-aged man holding a hoe stands on the porch, looking at the two of you.
Are you Odor?
No, he's inside.
Eric's, we would have had a meeting, right?
Your master servant wouldn't have had anyone to speak to.
So we're just showing up. All
You're
right.
just showing up.
I am Odnos. I own the land, whatever it's called. And this is an acquaintance, Okpanax. We would like to speak with Master Odor.
All right then.
And he'll walk inside and say, "Grandpa," and you start to do some math. That guy looked like he was in his mid-30s, maybe. And you start to realize, oh, this guy's gonna be really fucking old. And you head in through the entryway, which has several more children in it, and you start to, with that single reference point, you start to do all the math, and you realize those little kids are probably his great-grandkids, and that means that these adult people that are like 19, like teenagers, like 19, 20, these are his grandkids. And then his kids seem to vary in age between like low 30s to mid. You walk past like 9 people as you go through this first room, second room, third room, head into a fourth room, and you find yourself in a incredible bedroom. This bedroom is about as nice as the one in your house. It is this 4-postered bed, these beautiful sweeping curtains, like really nice dressers made out of wood, and a lot of glass work along the walls, hanging from the ceiling, stuff like that. And the man who originally greeted you at the porch is sitting on the side of the bed, and inside the bed is a collection of bones with skin tightly pulled across it in long white hair.
Hello, you're Odor, I presume?
He looks at you, and his eyes look surprisingly alert for how decrepit he is. He looks at you and Okbanax.
Yes?
Yes, I am Odnos of the...
Yes, of Calmarensis, something like that, right?
Yes, I keep forgetting. Calmaleros.
Camaleros. And you are...
This is
Okpanax.
Oh, I read something of yours recently. My great-grandson brought it to me.
Oh, really? Which one?
Oh, something about violence?
Yes, my newest text.
Yes. You're quite an opinion. Well,
Thank you.
he, pats his grandson's hand, and the grandson understands that's his sign to leave. And so, you find yourselves alone in the room. He sort of props himself up with some pillows and gestures towards some stools.
I'll sit in one of them.
Yeah, I'll sit.
Well,
Oh, wow.
the
A
Democ,
chair.
a stool.
Sorry, that was out of game.
The Democ swung by my residence and informed me that Midion, the hero, supposedly, I don't remember that story, but apparently he's a hero, was running for office, and more importantly, that he was being puppeted by some landowning individual. I'm assuming that's you.
We've certainly been helping him in his endeavor, yes.
The Demark said you had his hand shoved so far up his lower bits that he could hear your voice come out of his mouth.
The Demark's son is running against him, no?
I've heard that, yes.
Yes, well, if you would prefer to speak to Midian, I'm sure that we could arrange that.
I don't see why we need a middleman here. Why don't we talk candidate to council member?
Yes. I assume you know why we're here, then?
Yep. You want me to select him over the son of the Demark?
Yes.
So convince me.
Well, our current issue at hand that we wish to correct with Dratigoi is the unrest in Echialden, the rising sense of authoritarianism. We believe that between that and their aggression against Piave, that
Why should we bother
intervention-
ourselves with the government in a foreign city?
Well, because
Yes,
You've
it is
raised
of
an
utmost
eyebrow.
importance.
Belza is
Not
ruled by a military junta. Luca is ruled by a priest king. Hago, 100 tyrants. Piave, if you want to call them a republic, we can, but I'd say a flawed state on the brink of collapse. Does that mean we should invade the rest of the Dellian League?
At some point, if I thought that they would be successful, then yes. But in the meantime, it is important to do what we think we are capable of and what would be good for our fellow man. This is the only war that satisfies both.
I'm sure that for you, war is a thought exercise, but I have children. If a war were to come, I'm sure half of my boys would join the citizens' militia.
You're right, war for me is somewhat of a thought exercise, which is why I'm not running for myself, because I don't understand the gravity of it. But we have a war hero that we're running who knows full well what he's doing and consults an opinion like mine to make sure that it is also just as well as correct.
So to clarify, the option you're presenting me with is choose Midian and you go to war.
specifically we wish to re-establish Republican.
Yes,
and
of
democratic-
course, yes, I understand. But you're telling me if I select him, you're going to go to war.
We're going to present war and see if the people choose it.
You know the people will choose war. The people love war.
The people are quite smart.
I believe it was Paranax, one of those two, who said that people are smart, but in a group they are stupid. They act on irrational things. They're incapable of preserving logic. I'm sure that you could formalize that into some pretty phrase, but suffice it to say, I'd rather my sons not die in a conflict against Echialden.
They need not fight. But as I'm sure you've seen, there's been a rise in dictators throughout the League. I'm sure you've met many of the Glodelians and the Parians that have come here, and given your sympathies, I doubt that.
When has the League not had dictatorship on the rise?
it has
Quite some
always-
time, because but the reason it is not taken over is because we continue to fight it. There's no reason to stop now.
And where do you draw the line on that?
When there's no more dictators, it's going to be a long battle. But we take it in bites, and this is the one we're taking now.
And you think the
Moment of
people of
pride.
Echialden will welcome you as liberators when you kill their rulers?
Yes.
At the moment, our primary concern is Zuri, and given that Echialden is so close to Zuri and they've shown aggression against Piave, I see no reason things will get better for us.
Well, if you make it out of this, Deme, I'm sure that argument will work great before the tribe. I know they love the braying of the war trumpets and all the citizens' militia in their shining armor marching down the streets and being cheered on as they go to kill some other men's sons, but I've no interest in it.
Is it really only about your sons?
I could have stayed in the city. I had more than enough money. I came out here to the hills because I wanted to meet this fabled hill faction I'd always heard about. You know, they say that if the hill faction alone voted, they could change the face of Zurian politics. You probably don't remember this since you're both on the younger side, but 10 years ago I actually funded a whole cavalcade of Hills faction candidates with no fingers up their rectums as you're doing. And they failed. My fellow Hills faction did not vote. So, I like to think of myself as the little voice for 2,000 people, and I say that those people don't want war. They don't want their sons dying in a conflict that will not prosper for them. And, while I can't outvote you in a council meeting, I can say that you're not going to get mine.
So you propose to speak for them, even though they may support war?
I don't think if they were educated, they would.
And you're their educator. It's only you who can decide.
Well, you look old enough. You're a father, I assume.
I am.
If your kids wanted to eat, ice cream every day, you wouldn't let them. You'd do what's for their own good. And I can see what would be good for the Hills faction, and I know that for them, a war would just mean more dead people, more people dead to infections, more fatherless families.
My son served in the war with Apar and Gudel.
I'm sure it was very comfortable on horseback.
Eric's, he saw action, right?
There was no action in the Apar-Gladel war, unfortunately.
Not even a skirmish? Damn.
There were skirmishes, yeah, but really small ones.
He was willing. He was willing to be there. He led our, some of our tenants through the cause. Not
That's lovely
behind
that he
them, with
led his
them.
levy. It's good to see how different we are to Gladel.
Is there nothing we can do to convince you?
He sighs. Probably not. I think I'm going to die soon. And, it's sort of easy to stick to your principles when you don't think you'll have to stick around much longer.
How soon?
Not soon enough for you folks. I'm sure you'll be fine. You'll probably convince the Demark that you can make his family relevant again, and he'll betray his own son, and that simpering laborer, priestess, sees a fellow member of his class, and I'm sure he'll approve it too, and that Gladelite, that racist monster, I'm sure you'll find some way to be buddy-buddy with him as well.
Such is the plan.
Well, if I can at least stop you from being nominated, I'll make sure to have my voice heard at the council meeting. No one will say that I let Zuri slip into this war. If it is to happen.
Well, despite our disagreements, we appreciate your time.
He just looks at you.
IRL simulator, me and Charisma.
Well,
Like how he was also like the last one should have been super easy too.
he did say that, yeah. Ador did say that.
Yeah. Vera.
Yeah, he said that you'd probably find some middle ground with that racist monster, I think is what he said. Yeah.
The irony, we agree on Vera.
That's because you're not enough of a monster to match in with the other Plains faction people.
I'm not a monster enough for Beros. I'm not good enough for this guy. What am I doing?
Well, Ocristus is on your side.
Yeah. All right, so that's...
And so is Akbanax.
Yay! All right. You pull out of the property and zooming out again.
What now?
We should just bribe these fuckers.
Well, if we're going to talk about bribery, it is worth introducing the money mechanic we're using this campaign. We're using money factor, not actual currency, because I really don't want to do accounting. So your money factor is currently 1, the maximum being 10. And if something is below your or equal to your money factor, you can just buy it, and we don't change the number. So right now, you could not actually afford to bribe a low-scale public official.
Oh my god. Okay.
Can we get our money up?
Yeah, we
You
gotta
have
meet
many
with
ways to get your money up.
Let's get our money up. I'll start accepting my donations.
Hey,
And that does, yeah, you sure about that?
No. Give up on all my
Yeah.
principles just for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you guys have a bunch of different avenues of gaining money.
yeah, we could meet with the guy my uncle knows, the miner, or yeah. I could also just hardball it and get my family on board. And
Yep, and then you could just force this through just on pure cloud alone.
will these guys
that-
just?
Sorry, God.
Will these guys all be irrelevant once we get to the next level, Paralia
Yep.
or whatever?
Once you're approved, they literally have no power at all. As is going to be a recurring theme, these guys only control the agenda setting. That is it. When you get to the Paralia level, there will be a somewhat similar group. In that case, it's an open primary, but there's a very small cluster of voters that actually vote in those things. But in the same way, once they approve you, their opinions don't matter anymore.
Any input from you guys on what direction to take this?
An
I don't
identical
think Midian
response.
talking to I don't think Midian talking to any of those no's would really flip them.
I think family maxing. So is the family clout going to be any use at the next level?
No.
Then you might as well spend it. I think you might as well clout max, right?
Yeah, we're gonna need funding anyways, so we could just
Yeah, let's maybe get our money up.
Okay.
get our
well,
money up, bribe. How much would we need to bribe these?
You would,
fuckers?
for this really low level, a 3 money factor would be sufficient.
A 3.
So not very high. For the D-Mark, probably a 4, just because his standard is slightly higher, but for the council members, a 3 would be more than sufficient. Assuming they'll accept a bribe. Like, Audor probably won't, but Bureaus obviously will.
Is there any? I mean, I know it's not the norm, but do you guys think we could swing D-Mark and like half the council?
We've got
Well, it's funny. That guy did give us like a roadmap on how to sway everybody.
He did do that.
Check the VOD because I don't remember it.
Yeah,
it
just
was
the mod that
promised-
is still recording.
promise the D-Mark riches and then get Buros' title.
Yeah, and then we've got it right.
Everyone but Audor would be on board, and because of like the tradition of this Deme, if every one of them is agreeing and it's going to pass anyways, he would probably just vote yes to keep the tradition.
See, guys, we're in business.
Yeah. So
Well, let's do it then.
how?
I kind of lost track of the plan. I just wanted to get going
We've
with
got
something.
That's
We've
fair,
got to
that's fair.
swing the D-Mark. I figure his little puppeted brother will follow, I assume, from the sounds of Buros talking about them. And
Is there anything we can do about the sun right now?
Oh my god.
kill.
Not kill. I don't mean kill. I just
Oh,
mean
Kill him. We can kill
let's start telling people that he likes getting bit by dogs.
You could ask him to rescind his candidacy is about the only thing that you could legally do.
And then bite him with
Right.
dogs. Is slander illegal?
Yeah.
Okay. I also
But-
believe that
Well,
lying is always
hypothetical.
morally wrong.
Yeah.
What if Oshpinax just went on like a 4-hour lecture just saying like hypothetically what if he liked being bitten by dogs?
Yeah. What if
Hypothetically.
what if I engage him in public debate and make him look like an absolute fool?
Well,
See,
in the
now-
Paralia election, that'll bang, but here in the Deme, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
You're dealing with like the most yokel county election of all time, and you're like, what if I destroy them in the free market of ideas?
How do I How do I not own these people? These people should be paying me rent. Don't we like own this? Ah, fuck.
You don't
Deme.
own the whole team. I mean, you could just buy them, but that'd be a lot of money. Also, they have to consent to it because slavery is not illegal. Not legal. So,
Literally buy them.
I mean, yeah, if you just want to brute force it, you know the method. Convince your great uncle Merinos and your second cousin Notnosa.
Yeah. I'm gonna do that. I should. In the meantime, I should send my son to like meet with one of them. Don't you guys think? Either Priamnos or the Daymark. See what they want.
Do
Thoughts?
we know platform at all for Primrose? I guess we don't care about platform right now.
Not
Platform
at this
doesn't matter.
level. He probably doesn't even have one.
And we're not trying to go like Better Call Saul on this right out the gates.
Wait, that could be sick. What's your idea?
Yeah, what's the idea?
Literally well, I guess I don't know what the crimes get punished for around here, but if we staged a fake robbery that war hero Midian just managed to stop,
Holy.
it's about community contribution, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely do that. That would probably be the rest of the session, planning this one fake heist so that there's like no untied things. Like that'd be a huge deal.
Yeah.
That'd be funny,
I say
though.
I meet with family, send my son to meet with the D-March just because we're low on IRL time, so that'll let something happen.
If you would like to
off-screen.
meet with your family, I would. You know Uncle Merinos. He is a very cantankerous individual, and if you go there and don't bring the candidate with you, he will probably tell you to leave his house. He's just like very blunt. He's probably gonna ask Midian a bunch of questions because at that point you no longer are just dealing with the Deme level. He's like, I want this guy to. If I'm gonna give you money, I want this guy to become Strategoi. So you're gonna have to bring Midian. And if you think Akbanax could be helpful in convincing your great uncle, then you probably want to bring him as well.
Yeah, I'll bring both of them, and we'll coach Midian in the car like what our position
In the
is.
car.
Boys trip.
Boys trip to the Merinos estate.
Akbanax will teach him some rhetoric, I guess.
Okay, and did you say you wanted to send your son somewhere?
Yeah, he's gonna meet with the D-Mark and just see what what Priamnos, what they want if we were to get them on our side.
Okay. Would you like to know that before or after your meeting with your uncle?
After, because it's happening, fuck it,
Concurrently.
before, fine.
Okay, yeah, the meeting
we'll skeeve.
The meeting with the D-Mark is quite fast. Your son goes inside, talks about a horse, talks about how nice the D-Mark's horses are. They have about 30 minutes of small talk. And then eventually he's like, okay, so how do we become Strategoi? And D-Mark Proknos says a specific amount of coin. He says a dollar amount. And your son is like, oh, like, really? Is there nothing else? He's like, yeah, basically, that's the number. And he's like, okay. And that's the end of the meeting. It's a very quick meeting. It'll be about 4 money factor to bribe Proknos, and he promises that his brother will join in and his son will drop out.
Oh wow.
Huge, okay.
You are basically giving him the equivalent of a full year of rents on your property, which would be 8 years of rents from his.
Like all of our year's rent?
Yep. It's not literally. Wow. It's not going to reduce your money factor because you're going to get that money from somewhere else because you can't afford to give him that.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of money.
Is Merinos offering to fund us, or is that just meet with the minor guy?
Merinos and Notnosa, which are both your family members, they will. If you get your entire family on board, you'll have access to the Chalmeleros clan fund, which would bring you up to a money factor of 4.
Okay. Seems like we'll meet with Great Uncle Merinos. And Nick, do you IRL know what the plan is so you can talk to him?
I might need a little bit of assistance or like some in-game moments where I'm like, I recall, you know, I
There's not going to be any I recalls. You guys got to work this out before you go meet with Uncle Merinos.
Yeah. Brief your boy. He's a simple corn man.
Okay.
Legume farmer.
So our plot, it's pretty much a single issue proposition at the moment. Mm-hmm. Do you see the world map where Zuri is?
Yes.
Yeah, so northwest of us is Ekialden. They have Eric's, correct me if I'm wrong, traditionally been a republic, but they've been sliding into autocracy, dictator type stuff.
Within the last 10 years, yeah.
Within the last 10 years. They're also at war with Piave, who are our friends-ish. Closest thing we have to homies.
Okay.
And
Damn.
so our plot is to start a war with Ekialden and democratize them, make them a republic again, probably end up giving up some titles and stuff in order to get more support from we'll have to make agreements to get there, but right now that's the plan. That's what we want. That's our goal.
Yes.
So that's the core of it.
Cool.
You good?
Yeah, we'll find out.
All right.
Well, as
Ben,
the three of you
anything
guys,
you wanna say?
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, as you're traveling through the carriage in the direction of Uncle Marinos' home, you will have a final chance, the three of you together. Any wisdom that you wish to bestow, Akbanax?
Now, remember,
Mm-hmm.
it is not that we are simply trying to get elected only to get elected. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do. Not just that we gain, but man gains. So remember that this war is a just one, a necessary one. It is not only an opportunity that we have to make the world better, but an obligation upon all of us as rational men with the power to make a better world to get elected and take forward these actions.
Yes.
My great
Oh, God.
I'll put my hand on his shoulder and say, my great uncle values bluntness. Do not be afraid to just say something simply and not need to ramble.
I can do that.
Alrighty. You guys approach the estate of Bleg Mixalo. It was the second property ever purchased by a member of the Chalmaleros clan. In fact, the founder of the Chalmaleros clan was this guy's brother. So he's quite old. And he's basically one of the founders of your entire family, Odnos.
Would he have been my, grandpappy, great-grandpappy?
Not quite. So he's your great uncle. So the thing is, though, so it was your great grandfather that founded the Chalmaleros family. However,
Okay.
your great grandfather was 35 years older than Marinos. Their father had quite a spread of children. So even though they're related, he's like a full generation separated of the founding generation of your family. But he is the oldest living member of it. So there's that. But yeah, your carriage heads inside. This, you did send forward your master servant. Your master servant is also in your carriage with you, and he'll hop out. They make some, complimentary discussion, and then your master servant returns to the carriage, opens it up, extends a hand to let the three of you out, and he'll say to you, Odnos, your uncle seems to have invited some other members of the extended family. Your cousin will be here, Chelnos. Your second cousin, Notnosa. As well as your sister. I was not aware of this taking place, and I apologize for that.
It's unexpected, but fine. Suppose we can get it all in one place.
Yes.
Eric's, did he include Nosa in there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, your uncle, when he heard that you were coming, called the entire family together.
No pressure.
You step forward and head into a foyer, and the vibe instantly switches up. A bard has been hired for this thing. A money factor of 3 is required to. A money factor of 2 is required to host a party like this. So it's expensive, you can afford to do something like this on a whim, but your great uncle can, mostly because he's old as shit and he doesn't have that much money left, but he's also not going to live that long, so he can spend it a bit more freely. But you head into the foyer with a bard playing off in the corner, people chatting throughout the foyer. Some of them are servants, some of them are local friends of your uncle, others are extended family members of your clan that you haven't seen in a very long time. And among them, over in a corner next to a fireplace, you see the three people who you actually need to convince, those being Achelnos, Marinos, and Notnosa. The three of them are all bundled up in chairs, seated around. Achelnos looks as you saw him, a couple days ago, 10 years younger than you, very fuckboyish. Your great uncle is so buried in like clothes and blankets and such that you can really only see his face, which has these huge liver marks on his cheeks, this like deep red coloration. And then your second cousin is the exact same age as you. She's very fancily dressed for this occasion, and has a large fur coat wrapped around her upper body. Looks like a wolf or something.
Hello, family.
Achelnos will glance over, and the other two will follow a bit more slowly, and he'll say, "Ah, well, look what the horse dragged in."
Yes, as well as these two others. These are Ukbanax, philosopher from the city, and of course, Midian, the candidate in question.
Achelnos will extend his hand to you, Midian.
And he extends his.
It's a pleasure to meet someone who's actually killed a man. You'd be shocked how many people you can meet here in the Plains Fact who's never even stabbed a spear through a person's chest.
Aye, 'tis the way of wars in Zuri, right?
Yeah. Everyone wants them to happen, but no one wants to fight in them. But you and me, though, a different breed.
Once the fighting starts, few really do have the, what's the right word? The courage, really.
Absolutely. Well, to do some introductions, since my cousin neglected to do so, this here is Great Uncle Marinos, a pillar of the Chalmaleros family. That there is my cousin, Nosa. She doesn't spend much time here in Zuri, but she can always come back to, see her beloved family members. He points towards Akbanax. I haven't met you before.
Hello, I'm Akbanax of Zuri. I'm a philosopher.
And why'd he bring you?
Gonna gesture.
Yes, Ukbanax has been a part of the campaign. He is very influential among certain circles within the city itself, the urban population. And so,
And he knows what we're about.
Yes, well, and beyond my influence, I also provide a legitimate philosophical backing to know that we're not just leading, but making good decisions.
he has
For war.
recently wrote a treatise in favor of war.
Where do you find these crackpots?
I'll laugh, but kind of awkwardly.
I am not happy with that.
Chelnos will.
Does he not even notice that I'm far
Nope.
stronger than he is?
No, he doesn't. Chelnos will sit back down and he'll say,
Well, Uncle? And Marinos will look at the three of you and say, Please, sit at the, sit on the stones next to the fireplace. I'll have the servants draw a partition around us so we can have some privacy.
Very well.
and once the three of you sit down on the stones in
I
front of the
walk in
fire,
a way that kind of makes it clear that I'm trying to show off that these guys need to know that I'm stronger than them.
only one of the three people seems to even register that and make any reaction at all, which is the
Yeah.
Nosa seems to give you a slight smile.
Yo!
Oh.
I'm like
Don't
sworn
even-
to celibacy, but hold up.
Yeah, don't even think about it, bro. That's my cousin.
This campaign's about to nosedive here.
Yeah.
At
Yeah,
a
I'm like
gesture,
start fighting like a dog.
Jesus Christ! At a gesture of Marinos, several cloth partitions are drawn around this little area. The sounds of the wider celebration are muted significantly, and Marinos will look at you, Oddnose. And when you were a little kid, he was 30. So your earliest really memory of him was when he was like 40 years old, but he was always talked about kind of like he's your grandpa, kind of. And his body disturbs you. His skin is like paper thin and has been since he was a younger guy. You were told that he had some disease. You never asked any questions about what. And now that he's in his older age, the backs of his hands are like leathery and worn. The skin is super, super thin. And so as he, emerges his little fingies from inside of his blankets upon blankets, the hands look skeletal, and he'll extend a hand out in your direction. Only like the hand itself is visible. The rest is covered in furs.
It's
To
good
me?
to see you, Adnos.
Good to see you too as well, great uncle.
You don't, make the trip very often.
I should more, but I've been in Piave for the past year, you have to understand. But I will, now that
Piave.
I've returned.
What's that?
It's one of the other city-states, great uncle. West
Where?
of us.
West?
If you were to follow the road north, past
Yes.
Ekialden.
Mendebaldian, you mean? And then
Eric's, that's
your
what it used to
cousin,
be called.
yeah, that's what it used to be called. Your cousin will pat him on the shoulder and say, "They changed the name, Uncle, about 10 years ago." And he'll slowly nod. Oh. Yeah. Well. Well, as the only person within this partition who's actually served in the government of Zuri, getting through your Deme should be the easiest part, so, how's it going?
We're working on it. Proknos and his kin have been running their son. There's some Dellian who puts up a fight. Some Odor fancies himself a man of the people, and the Christus is all on board.
Enough of the people. It just reminds me of a Strabo. He said that too. Well, young man, and he looks at you, Midian, and you've never felt young. You're a 34-year-old man. But it's been a long time since someone's called you that. And he says, "You want to be Strategoi?"
I do, sir.
Really? If my nephew here had never approached you, would you have run?
To be candid, I'm not fully sure I would have, but
Good. Good. Are you ambitious?
I'd like to think I am, though not too sure.
What do you see your family... Where would you like to see yourself once your term as Strategoi is done? You and your family, where would you be? What would you be eating?
Oh, I'd probably return to the farm. So what would I be eating? Probably my family's stew.
Can you stand up?
Aye.
Smile at me.
Aye.
Now spin around.
Aye.
All right. That's all. You can leave.
Sir, I'm not sure I understand.
That's all I need from you. I'll speak to the adults now.
I look over at Odnos.
We will be out soon, Midian.
Very well. Pleasure meeting you all.
Yes, you're a very handsome young man. Now leave. Yes. And then you.
Well,
He's a little rough around the edges, but he's a good guy.
Sandal boy.
yes.
You profess that, you'll assist during the tribal election, I'm imagining. You're not going to help in the Deme or the Paralia. Rural folk would hate you.
I appreciate the input, and I hope to find a way to make myself useful in as many contexts as possible, but I, of course, won't insert myself in a place where it's not beneficial.
Now, the fact that your answer took that long means you're good enough for the position. You can leave as well.
Understood. I'll get up and walk out calmly.
Soon enough, it's just you, Odnos. Achelnos, your cousin, in most circumstances is very cocky, but when he's around your uncle, he chills down quite a bit. He has not said a single word other than that initial little thing he did, and Nosa has said nothing the entire time. Both of them seem to look towards your uncle. And your uncle nods.
I outrank my uncle, and I'm nervous of him.
He is also technically a Demarch, so he's the only one in the room that currently holds a government office, just in a different Deme. And he was also an Archon about 30 years ago. So, but yeah, he'll nod and say, "You picked a good candidate. He can smile well. He comes off a bit aloof, but that's all right." I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, 1273, they elected that Stratagoy, and the man's only claim to fame was that he'd circumnavigated Valoros. I still can't believe that happened. But he's a good puppet. His ambitions are non-existent. He wishes to return to that pithy little farm of his. You should probably give him free rents for the rest of his life. The worst thing that would happen is he does a good term as Stratagoy, our family's successful, and then a year later he uses that popularity to turn into a weapon against us. So keep him satisfied. Even if he hints at wanting something, give it to him at will. He'll never cost as much as he's going to give us in benefit.
That's good advice.
It's not so much advice as an instruction. If we're to endorse you, then all of Chalmaleros could ride on this. It would look very poor to the other families if the first candidate we've endorsed in years fails. Archbanax is fine. He's not going to harm you, but don't expect him to turn the Paralia election for you. I'm just going to tell you now, there's no way you'll ever dress up a king like a beggar. If he goes to those, people will think he's talking down to them, because realistically he is. But that's alright. In the tribal assembly, people like him. I can tell. So, now that they're gone, I approve of your selections. I want to know what the benefit for us is.
Well, the current plan is that we want to start a war with Ekiald, and first of all, for the sake of
Don't
democracy.
just bother justifying it to me. Just what's the benefit?
Well, as always, when it's our Stratagoy putting this forward, we're sure that, our people could fight there, presumably land and titles. I have connections in Piave who would be very grateful for aid in their little pig war.
I see. I don't expect you to do this now. From what you said, I think that's good enough for the Deme level. Once you get to the Paralia, if you wish to maintain my support, I want something in writing from someone in Piave willing to give us coin for our endorsement here. As for land and title, unfortunately Stratagoy does not handle out the doling out of territory. That would be the Archon, so as we get closer to the General, you want to make sure that the Archon's in our pocket. The worst case scenario would be we successfully conquer, we serve in various positions of authority, and then the spoils are handed out to whoever managed to become Archon. For now.
Yeah.
It's good enough. He looks over at Notnosa, and she shrugs. And he looks over to Chelnos, and Chelnos gives a nod. Well then, good luck.
I have your approval then?
Oh, yes.
I am grateful, great uncle.
For now, as I said, get that piece of paper from Piave before we endorse the Paralia election.
Understood.
And, last thing, that, soldier fellow of yours, make sure he's always wearing his uniform when giving any speeches, especially for the Deme election.
For the Deme election?
Especially, yes. The country folk try to pretend that, they're all about family connection and stuff, but even patriotism stirs in them when they see a war hero in a uniform.
Understood.
And he raises a hand, and the cloth partitions begin to come down, and a Chelnos, hops out of the chair, and Notnosa leaves as well, leaving, and I assume you go off to check in with the other two, leaving just your great uncle curled up next to the fire in his chair.
Repeat that, what happened?
Everyone just disperses, leaving only your uncle near the fireplace.
Alright.
So you guys have a money factor of 4 now.
Hype?
And what steps would we like to take? Or, is there any conversation you guys want to have before you leave? Midian, how'd you feel about that? Being looked at like a piece of livestock.
Back. I thought I messed that up so bad.
What about you, Ogvanax? How'd you feel about that? Oh, he's dead. He's deceased, long gone.
Akbanak?
He's gone. It's Jover.
He's
No,
off
no,
calling me.
sorry. I was muted.
Oh, okay.
Dude, that was like it was like such a funny swing because I went from feeling like such like a real like playmaker and like guy that was important to this because I think because the other guy got sent out of the room,
Yeah.
and then I get like 2 words in before he's like, yeah, you're fine too, and then
Like, get on my site.
the emotional whiplash. I'm taking it tough, and he seems to not realize how much stronger than him I am.
Yeah, he did not realize that at all. He didn't even think about it. That's crazy.
I know, and I was like kind of leaning into poses that kind of like put like little thinker poses that really put
Yeah.
the bicep out.
At least one of them noticed
And
it.
yeah, that's good. That's good. But like these guys need to be paying attention. I'm massive.
So, final steps before the Deme selection.
I don't want to roleplay it, but I do want to go talk to my Strabo white cousin before I leave. Just chat.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, he'll tell you he's looking forward to the war. He's already getting his plate armor nice and cleaned up. He's commissioned
Let's go.
a new helmet with a plume. He's excited.
Based. All right.
Dude, violence and justice, baby.
So, prior to the Deme selection, some of this we can handwave. For example, your son bribing Procnos and Polinos and his son. That is, you can just do that. However, your son will inform you that while Procnos and Polinos are both bribed and they agree and they take the money and they're like, yeah, we'll vote for you, the son does not drop out. He remains in the race for Stradiboy.
That's gotta be brutal for him, man.
Yeah,
Bad
well, it's going to be
selling
when
out
we get
like
to the selection, but... so at the moment, Procnos and Polinos have been bribed. Christus was going to vote for you to begin with. What do we want to do with the
Odor
last
is
two?
soy, Biros is soy. Yeah.
Well, we need one of those two.
We do. I thought it was a D-mark plus half.
Yeah, D-mark plus half. Oh, you're thinking that 2 is half. No, it had to be 3. Sorry.
Oh, soy.
Also,
all right.
remember, it's a unanimous thing, so... in this particular Deme. So you probably want to get at least one of those two on board.
Yeah, so we should get Viros's title or kill Odor so one of his sons
Okay.
takes control.
Yeah, so...
Can we kill him?
do we need to explore this hypothetical, or can we just...
I'm just saying violence and justice, like
No, I get it. Yeah, no.
that
for
you
sure.
can justify things.
Yeah. Yeah, you can justify
Morally,
assassinating an old
ethically.
man. Yeah.
I
that's
have
for sure.
I think
I have
he has the least
you
amount
up
of
on my
time
other
with it.
monitor to get me mentally prepped.
Yeah. So, for Biros, the struggle of getting a meeting with the Archon is less a money thing and more of a politics thing. Let me explain. The current ruling class, or ruling 4 officers of Zuri are primarily guildsmen, and because they don't want to be seen as abandoning their core voter base, they largely only meet with guildsmen. So, on any of the 3 of your sheets, do any of you have a guildsman who can serve as an intermediary to get you this meeting with the Archon and then get...
Yes. Yes.
Who?
He asks me about chairs.
Okay.
Huge.
So we're gonna cut to a scene. It's
Dude,
about
he
a
was
week.
asking for a way to repay me.
It's about a week out from the Deme selection, and
Let's fucking go.
Akbanax, you wake up in the morning, you open up the broadsheets, and all the headlines have changed, but one from about a week ago is still there. You put the broadsheet down, you don't care, and you head out. And this morning, 2 of your students are out there. You haven't seen Tritnos since his father swung by, but you're confident he'll show up again.
Dude, okay.
Mydor is there, and he's looking anxious today. He's like running his hand through his hair and shit.
Who?
Mydor, the usual suspect.
Yeah. My door. You look aghast. What's happened?
I had the worst dream.
Oh, goodness. Tell me about it.
Well, I
Is
walked
this the
into
guy
my...
who thinks he sees ghosts?
No, this is the chair guy.
Okay, sorry.
I walked into my workshop, and
Yeah.
I took some tools off the wall,
Uh-huh.
and I looked over, and instead of a chair, I saw a statue.
Oh. Of what?
A guy.
What guy?
I didn't recognize him, but I can't do statue work. I mean, I've thought about it, but I can't do it.
Well, why not?
Why would my brain conduct such a siren song?
Why couldn't you make statues?
Because I carpent. I'm a carpenter.
Like a statue out of wood?
Oh, it was a stone statue.
Oh, make a stone statue then.
But I'm a carpenter.
Right, but
I make chairs.
you could make a statue as well.
Out of wood?
It's,
Oh.
You can learn new skills.
Oh, I guess so. Anyways, that's not why I came here today. That was just...
All right. Well, I do believe that was likely a prescient vision, and I think it would behoove you to try and make a statue.
All right, so I've come with a new question today.
Sure.
So you say I make chairs.
You said that. Yes.
So I make chairs.
Yes.
What is a chair?
That's a good question. It's the kind of thing that you make.
Is a person a chair if I sit on them?
No, it's a person.
Then what separates them?
Well, you see, I see what you're getting at. So in my, let's see, have you read my metaphysics text?
Your what?
My text on metaphysics. Primordia?
No.
Well, you see, it describes that, the world is made out of a single material.
Right.
All right, that, there's a fundamental element called primos. And it gets stretched and bent and twisted into different shapes. And depending on the shape of the thing, you have different properties that it exhibits. So, some of the base elements like water and air are certain fundamental changes in this material. But then more complicated changes make all of the more complicated things in life. And so, surely there's some unique combination of the primos that makes a chair. And we're able to identify that with our intuitions.
So, things exist and then we name them, not that our names create a category of things?
Certainly. There's a fundamental nature to chairness that we are able to identify.
Is a stool different than a chair?
Well, in lots of ways I identify them the same, but there is something that I identify separate, so they have much in common.
But no backs.
But no backs, indeed.
No backs. Wow.
Indeed.
He seems a lot calmer. His hands are wrapped around his little teacup. Oculus made it again today. He's getting better at that. He's kind of okay. I mean, he's not very picky.
Dude, I bet he just got lucky. I don't think he's trying to learn anything.
Yeah. And he'll stand up and say, wow. Well, I think I have to get to work. The apprentice spilled paint in the workshop last week.
Oh, can you not get another one of those?
A different paint bucket?
No, apprentice. He seems to be causing you lots of troubles. Bring him up.
Look, he's my grandson. I mean, I can't send him out on the street. What'd he do with himself then? He'll find himself doing...
I don't understand. He's family.
Yes.
Okay. I just, remember, what was it? A week ago, you were here and telling me that he, made a chair with no back.
Yeah, he just doesn't get it.
Sometimes
I know we start them early,
a child
but...
doesn't have it.
Yeah, I mean, the other guilds say that we start, our apprenticeship programs too young. That we should let them have a childhood before we get them to carpentry. But, I mean, I started when I was young, and look at me now. Master craftsman, my own workshop. If I'd started, when I was 12, like all the other apprentices, where could I have progressed?
Well, how old is he?
He's 5.
5? Oh, wow.
Old enough to hold a hammer. That's what we always say.
Wow. And he's, making chairs?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
No nails yet, just glue, but he's getting there.
Well, I suppose that I was thinking at the age of 5, and that's what I do for work now.
Exactly. I mean, farmers farm at the age of 5. I don't know. Athnaween killed people probably at the age of 5. I don't know what else they do.
Earlier, actually. I know that to be true.
Well, there you go. So, I don't know. The stoneworkers say that their work's too dangerous. Maybe that's true, but I mean, what's the danger in carpentry?
Well, sure. Especially if it's only glue.
Yeah. Well, you know, I have to ask you, is there anything I can do for you?
Actually, there is this time.
Really?
Yes, I've been meaning to meet with another guildsman, and I thought that you could give me an introduction.
Sure. Who?
You know, be honest, I've got a little lost in thought. It's a friend of mine, and I would like to meet him. He's going to come by later today. Do you think that you could just come back a bit past noon and then meet up with my friend here?
I could schedule my lunch break around it.
Good. I appreciate it.
Alrighty.
I'll see you then.
Yep. He walks away, and you find your student attendance a little bit sparse today. You got Charnax. Charnax has not returned. Charnax, I think, is what the correct one is. Has not returned since that day she said she was going to go read about the Dwarvish Pantheon. She's probably gotten lost down a rabbit hole. Tritnos hasn't shown up, so it is just Eluzor, who barely talks unless you directly address him. Priamnos, who's always reading books. He, again, rarely talks unless addressed. And then Achilles, who is just sort of at the edge of the courtyard. And as the last of your petitioners for the day walks away, he'll walk over and say,
Do you think you actually help him?
Who?
The simpering carpenter.
Ah, of course.
And you don't think he just has some illness of the mind that you help placate each day?
No.
Huh.
If he does, then I certainly do. All he is pained by questions, trying to learn more about the world around him. And I think that is something that has made all great men great.
He's asked you a variation on the same question for the last 2 months I've been here.
Uh-huh.
And he's never gotten an answer that satisfies him. He always says, oh, that's interesting, and comes back the next day and asks a different variation of the same question.
He's been doing it for far longer than 2 months.
Is that not insanity?
No. It's a difficult question he's asking.
At least if he was paying you, I'd understand why you're doing this.
I'm learning a lot from him. Because it's just good to have people that ask you questions. That's how you learn things, is you have to answer them.
I can't help but think...
He comes up with a new variation of the question every single day. He comes up with some new reason why what I've said is wrong. And so every single day I have to realize another thing about my understanding of the world.
I suppose when you put it that way, he's becoming a philosopher at a snail's pace.
He quite is. An important person to keep around.
I get the sense that back in Zuri, someone like him would have long since been sent away to a dungeon for the criminally insane.
I think he's not harming anybody.
That's probably true. Except for maybe his grandson. Sending them into workshop at 5 is insane.
I did find it odd when he said it, but I don't think that I can rigorously condemn it, so...
Even in Hegel, we wait till 14 to send anyone into the mines. I mean, those are much safer than that madman's workshop.
Have you been?
The mines?
The workshop.
Oh. No.
Could be nice. I've never been.
I would imagine that someone's space would reflect their internal thought process in a man with that much anxiety built up. I can only imagine the rat's nest he must live in.
I can see that he runs a tight ship.
And he'll return. Achilles will return to the wall, and your 2 studious pupils will not really engage you in much conversation today. Honestly, your courtyard is more of like a communal space for them to read, and today they seem largely absorbed by that reading. So the day passes by. You think more about the nature of war. You get a little work done on your pamphlet. And I assume Oddness was the one that you wanted him to meet.
Yes.
Alrighty. Oddness, you arrive at the public courtyard a little bit after lunch. You can see that all the 3 students that are here, not including your son, are just gathered together around some books, eating some cheap, shitty street food while they chat. And through the window of his one-room house, you can see Akbanax.
Oh.
Who is that?
It's peak immersion. He just opened up the door to his house and walked down into the courtyard to greet you.
Yeah, I'm full LARPing out here, guys.
Akbanax, it's good to see you.
Greetings. Good news.
Yeah?
My carpenter friend said that he can set up a meeting. I just forgot with whom to ask him to meet with, so he's going to come back and see the both of us, and then hopefully take us there.
Eric's, it was with the Archon, right?
The Archon Chermanidnos, and though his name does not end in or, he is a very close ally of the guildsmen. So, you having a guildsman on your behalf should be enough to get you a meeting.
What was his name?
Chermanidnos.
Charmander ass name.
Crazy.
I'll ask Akbanax. Did Tritnos show up today?
He has not shown up since the day that you saw him there. He does this. He'll come back.
If you say so, I hope that he will. Been meaning to pay him a visit.
Hmm.
Do you have any idea what he does in the city besides listen to your rhetoric?
You know, one time I believe I saw him at a drinking hall speaking with women.
Yes, that sounds
Scandal.
about right.
Alrighty. Well, about 10 minutes later, an individual saunters into the courtyard. Oddness, he immediately strikes you as a deeply nervous person. He is chewing on his index finger as he walks inside. His face has little bits of sawdust on it that he just hasn't cleaned away, but it's clear he's wearing some sort of goggles because the area around his eyes is perfectly clean. And he walks into the courtyard, sees you, seems surprised, sees Oddnax, gets back to his normal state, and continues to chew on his index finger as he walks over. Hello?
Hello. Are you the one Akbanax was telling me about?
I don't know.
I'll look at Akbanax.
Sorry, this is my craftsman guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, this is my friend. He's
Real crafting in the background. Sorry.
he's a craftsman.
What was your name?
My door.
Mido. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am Adnos.
Yeah. So, what's up? He said you wanted to meet with another guildsman?
We wanted a brief meeting with Archon
The Archon?
Yes. We want to address a simple issue with somebody's title.
I don't know about that one.
Oh, what's wrong?
Well, next time I meet him, I have to pay him for my business license.
Oh, how much?
It's 4 gold.
I'll take 4 gold out of my pocket and hand it to him.
Oh. Oh, okay. All right. We may need to wait a little bit since I didn't make an appointment, but he's generally pretty receptive.
That's fine.
Is it just me and you? I didn't catch your name.
Adnos.
Oddnos. Okay. Cool. You from the city?
No, I'm from the plains. An estate.
The Tabrashan Plains?
No, the plains of Zuri. Have you heard of the... Yes, we have plains.
Oh. Well, We should get going.
Yeah.
You and this older man walk through the streets of Zuri. You make your way to the large... Yeah?
I'll ask him about like the guildman's life so I can start to get a feel for the urban core.
Yeah, so he became an apprentice when he was 5 years old under his dad. He then served as an apprentice until he was 12 under his father, and then he switched to that of a master carpenter when he was 12, and then served under that until he was 18. When he turned 18, he was in a journeyman carpenter, so he worked back under his dad for another 8 years. Then his dad died, and he wasn't senior enough to inherit his dad's business, so he worked for his dad's business partner until he was 37. That guy died, he inherited that business, and he's been a master carpenter ever since.
And what's he make?
Chairs?
He says that? All right.
Yeah, chairs.
Say.
And eventually you guys will head to the Hall of Justice, which is a temple-looking structure that is the office of the Archon. It is the only official office of any government position, because it is a deeply bureaucratic and busy job. And running it out of a private residence was tried, but it got complicated and messy, and post Strabo, the dictator, they decided to remove that and just make an official public building for the Archon. So it's the Hall of Justice. You climb the steps of the building, and it's almost like a stockroom floor in here. It's like people shouting, trying to get attention to different clerks who are dealing with different problems, but Midor, your guide here, simply goes to a specific clerk, shows them his guild membership, and after some like you can see his lips moving, but it's way too loud in here to make out the words he's saying. After a little bit, he emerges back from the morass of people and says, "All right, it'll be about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Alrighty.
You want to get some limpus bread?
What is that?
That's a new street food. It's just, I think it's Glidellen.
I suppose I'll give it a try. I don't care much for Gladelian things.
Oh, that's great. You guys head down the steps of the Hall of Justice. You head one street over. There's a little stand with a blue cloth covering it. And you've never seen a person from Gladell smile. And I don't know if you would make this connection, but you've met a very particular type of person from Gladell, aka former nobility. This guy's just chilling. He's just saying, "Hey, best limpus in all of Zuri," and he's just being a normal guy. And
What's his name? What's his sir title or whatever?
Oh, he'd be Ros, because he's a foreigner to the city. Yeah. But yeah, it's a pretty simple exchange. 2 pence for 2 large pieces of bread with olive oil smeared on one side with a little bit of salt and a very, very small amount of meat, packed inside of the bread. Midor heads back to the steps. He talks about his kids. Talks about he has 2 sons and a daughter. Talks about his grandson. He's got one of them. He's 5. He's a bad apprentice. He'll ask about your kids.
I'll tell him about my kids.
What do you say?
I'll relate. I'll talk about the one I'm very proud of, who's good at horse keeping and managing the estate. And I'll say I have another one who I love deeply, but often comes up short.
What does he do?
Well,
For a career.
For a career, he has enough inheritance that I hope to keep him afloat.
Whoa. A lot of money.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. If I could let one of my daughters not work anymore, I'd probably do that.
Yeah, it's a fortunate life. I'd like to see him make more use of it.
There's a bit of quiet, and then Midor hops up and heads back inside the Hall of Justice. He goes back to the same clerk, and he waves you through. You have to press by several other people trying to speak to the clerk at the same time. During your visits to Biave, their level of... You've heard rumors that in the Mythosian Empire it's a lot more orderly, but bureaucracy and the Dellian League don't mix very well. And you push through throngs of people, and eventually you push through a partition where a single armed soldier is. And there are almost no soldier under arms in all of Zuri. The Hall of Justice is one of
the only buildings that is allowed to have people with weapons. And there are 2 soldiers here armed with swords, and he shows them his little guild pass, and they correspond with the clerk he spoke to before, and then you guys are let through. And eventually, after a lengthy patting down of your person, and you guys find yourself in the back of this room. There is a sort of throne made of stone, and then seated atop that throne is the Archon. They have a little green crown, like a little, basically leaves formed together to form like a circlet atop the head. And they are like a judge, almost like a god, like reigning over each of the petitioners that come before them. And as Midor approaches, he looks up to the throne, to the elderly man, like in his late 60s, sitting atop it. Honestly, Midor and the guy are pretty similar ages. And he says, hey, Terminidos. My friend here wanted to discuss with you something, and the Archon will look down. He was writing something on a tablet to a servant who would come up to him, but he'll look down at you.
Hello, Archon Shermanidnos. I have a very simple request that a man by the name of Biros over in the plains be given an increased title to Birnos.
All right. Linus, bring over the form in question. And he brings over a clay slab, and the Archon says, what is your name, petitioner?
Odnos.
All right. And what deme do you belong to?
Hold on. Pendones.
And what deme does the petitioner belong to?
Also Pendones, right?
Yep. And what is the petitioner's current name?
Biros.
All right. And you are moving for him to be made into the landed merchant class?
Yes.
And you attest that he has assets greater than the sum of 500 gold?
Eric's, it sure looked like that, right?
That shit costs more than your house, and you have way more than that.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
Then he'll nod. He'll put his seal on the clay. He'll flip the clay tablet over for you to press your thumb into it.
All right.
Alrighty. It's done.
Thank you.
Yes, carry on.
And then
And
I'll,
Midor will guide you back.
I'll whisper to Midor, you have a fee, don't you? A license?
Midor shakes his head. Don't bring that up, man. And you walk past the 2 soldiers, and just as the curtain's about to part, you hear a voice come down.
Midor,
He spins around.
you haven't gotten your business taxes to me for this year.
Midor sighs heavily and reaches into his coin purse and walks over, and he puts it in a box, and then he walks back. It's a whole thing. He looks really depressed, but he'll exit the Hall of Justice with you, and within 30 minutes you find yourself back at Ochbanax. And for the sake of time, we can zoom a little bit forward. That request will be processed. And is there any final things we would like to do before we go into the Deme selection on June 15th?
Confirm with Biros that we've got his vote, or Birnos.
Yeah, once the official thing goes through, which will be a couple days before the Deme selection, he says he's on board.
All right, don't talk to him more than that. He sucks.
Yeah, you sent your son.
One by
I
one.
sent my son. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Nick, you were saying final count?
I was just saying head count here. Like, let's one by one here. We feel good about all of them.
we bribed Proknos. We've got Akristos on lock. Odor is soy, so we'll just bank on him being
Yeah.
outvoted. Polinos got bribed. Virnos got title. Priamnos is molding. Yeah.
And
Any?
seething.
Yes. Also coping.
Okay. June 15th is
Do we all feel good about this?
Spleen.
I think so.
Yeah, I think we got the votes, right? We
got
bought
the
all
votes.
but one.
You got the votes. Okay. June
Yeah,
15th.
That guy
Yeah.
literally said I won't be able to stop you guys, but I won't give my support.
Yeah.
So this is, I think we're maxed.
Alrighty.
Unless the everyone has to vote the same way thing goes in our face and people
Yeah,
start
but there's
defecting to Odor.
there's a tradition, right? Of like.
There is a tradition.
Yeah. So hopefully
So-
Odor will switch.
For the Deme of Pandones, June 15th is the date of the Demark selection. It is a festival. June 15th is also typically a harvest festival, early harvest festival, typically a summer festival. It's a variety of different traditions, but it's all really packed into one day/weekend. You go to a place, you get some tasty food, you vote on who the counselors are for the following year, which we've largely ignored because it's not relevant to us. And then you have the DMARC select this year's candidates for office. The fair section is largely uneventful for you guys. You get to bring your families, Ochbanax, you get to bring yourself and find a nice little milk crate to shout at people and say why they're wrong and war is based. But none of those people actually get to choose who the candidate is, so this is mostly an intellectual exercise. What actually matters is that at about 3 or 4 p.m., everyone makes their way to the DMARC's home. Odnos and Okbanax, since you are basically sponsoring Midian, you are allowed to be in the back of the room alongside about 10 other people. But in the center of the chamber, there are only 6 people and then the DMARC Council. The DMARC Procnos will stand up.
As was given down to us by the great founding father, Eugemenes, we shall now select the candidates for democratic office of the city of Zuri, representing our Deme. We will first hear the candidate for Basilius.
And a young man with a very upper-class Plains faction accent will give a long-winded speech about how the city of Zuri is backsliding and that we need someone strong at the helm and that the people in the urban core don't know what they're missing and that they need to have the culture and values of people in the periphery. This guy will never win an election, but he sounds really, eloquent while he gives the speech. And he is selected for Basilius, since no one runs against him. For Master of Ceremonies, which is the next one, it is quite similar. It is uncontested, so the guy just takes that as a chance to go. Archon is the third to last. Archon would have been first. Archon is the first one, and this is a contested seat. There are 2 candidates, Mydor and Socranos. And as you guys listen to their speeches, all this belief of it's all about paternal connection comes fully into force, because Mydor, all he talks about is what he's given to the community over his years. Different Mydor, by the way. What he's given to the community over the years, all the homes he's built, all the people he's helped, all the food he's given out to people who were hungry. And it's a beautiful speech about how he's given back to his community. And then the other guy steps forward, Socranos. And he goes line by line about the different gifts he's given to each member of the DMARC Council, and then he ends his speech. And Socranos is selected as the candidate for Archon.
Let's fucking go.
And finally, Strategoi is called. And for the first time, you actually see the person you're running against. You've only known him by reputation up to this point, but Priamnos is a 21-year-old, 22-year-old guy, very young. And he will step forward into the center of the chamber. He's been seated next to you, Midian, but he hasn't said anything. And he will say,
DMARC Council, Father, Uncle, I'm the only man in this team who has attended the Belton War College. While I was there, my masters and tutors called me a strategic mind, one which could change the nature of the Zurian military. Our military is bad. It fails. It's inadequate. The Beltons are a decade ahead of us. The Econaldanites and Malgotha 2 or 3. They use cannons, we use spears. The person running against me has no experience. He's fought, but he doesn't understand the science of fighting. That is all that there can be said.
he seems pretty resigned. When he goes back to his chair, he doesn't even look triumphant. He just looks disappointed. And he'll sit down next to you, Midian. And then,
Did not know we were against a qualified guy. We probably should have figured that out first.
Are we the baddies?
the DMARC will say,
And now the final candidate for office and candidate for Strategoi, as well as veteran of the afternoon conflicts of the North. Midian, do you have anything to say?
Thank you. A decade ago, I went to war for this country, and of course, endured great hardship for it. And in the decades since, I've served this country again, working in the fields and making sure that our people are fed. While there's little pleasure in war, I've had the luxury of, as I work my hands and my body in the fields, thinking deeply about the decisions that, you know, put me in war a decade ago, and I understand them, I feel like. I believe that Zuri has grown weaker in the years since, and that we've allowed neighboring powers to increase in aggression and tyrannic practices. If appointed, I believe we could bring Zuri to a new, stronger age. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
One of the council members, and at first you can't see him because it's a dark room. There's only a skylight in the middle, but you recognize his voice as Otter. You don't know how they managed to get him out of his bed into this council chamber, but he sort of leans forward. Demark, I know it is irregular, but I would like to ask a question of the candidate. And there's sort of a little bit of a hubbub up at the bench, but the Demark sort of raises his hand and says, I see no harm in a single question. And Otter will say, Candidate Midion, have you ever
Aye.
commanded a unit in battle?
I did.
And? Did it go well?
Is it okay? Is it a long story okay?
The Demark will say,
No, I don't see the relevance here. Council Otto, you can remain quiet, and thank you for your service to this great nation and your gifts to the council. I think that we can move on with this election. Votes. Let's do votes. Votes for my son Priamnos, and you see a single hand raised from Odor. He says, "All right, rejected. Moving on. Votes for the next candidate." And everyone will raise their hand except for Odor, and after a couple of long moments, he'll just sigh heavily and raise his hand. And the Demark will say, Wonderful! With unanimous consent from the Demark Council of Pasadonus, we certify you, Midion, as our candidate for Strategoi. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor.
I'll start clapping.
yeah. The one of the counselors, Biros, he starts to clap as well. Acristus joins in, and you guys exit the Demark's home out into the festival.
I'm
that is
gonna
raging
whisper to
outside.
Akbanax. We'll have to coach him to be a bit more eloquent.
I will write speeches for him.
And as you guys exit Demark's home, and successfully have confirmed your way through the first of many hoops to get to actual Strategoi. Is there any final things you guys would like to do? Alrighty. Well then, as Midion, as you walk away from the Demark's home, Oddness and Akbanax congratulate you on your success and say that they'll keep in touch. One person approaches you. You're going to join your family. You're going to enjoy the festival, but the defeated candidate, Priamnos, will sort of clear his throat behind you and say,
Candidate Midion,
Aye.
are you determined to send Zuri into a war?
Determined is a strong word. I'm far from determined. But we need to be prepared if the need arises.
I hope you know what you're doing.
I hope so too.
And congratulations. The pockets of your benefactors are very deep.
It's 1 year term. You will have your shot.
We'll see.
and with that, we will end the first session of Race to Office. Next time, we will try to get confirmed by the primary in the Paralia level election. It'll be a lot more people, an open vote rather than a closed vote of oligarchs, and we'll have to learn about campaign messaging and how to give speeches. All that will be for next time. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
guys.
Love you,
I
Kasich.
hate the
You better watch.
elves.